Do you like wrestling trivia? Then check out the 5-Star Match Game, the Pro Wrestling Quiz Show. I'm Joe Gagney, and every episode, I grill 3 contestants with 5 rounds of power-packed wrestling trivia. We have over 30 evergreen episodes in the archives covering WWE, AEW, Japan, Mexico, and much, 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 much more. Play along at home and check it out today.
Hello there, my name's Neil David and I'm the host of Eurograps Express, the podcast exclusively dedicated to the wrestling of Europe. If it's wrestling and it happens in Europe and it's good, we talk about it. Whether it's RevPro, Progress, WXW, Passion Pro, Pro Wrestling Chaos, Pro Wrestling North, we don't care, we talk about them all. If it's good and it's exciting, I want to share it with you. We're on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Check us out on the feed. Check us out on Twitter at EuroGrapsEXP. And join us for chat about European wrestling and a little bit of chat about cheese. Hopefully see you there.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
The cool fans, Rich, cry when Sami Zayn hugs DUI Uso. That's what cool fans do. Cool fans call the Bloodline storyline better than any cinema. That's what the cool fans are doing. It's us nerds.
Ours virgin
over
nerd
here.
dorks, that like the wrestling.
Yeah.
Rich Crage.
And I'm allowed to be a fucking work rate nerd for the G1. I just want them to have great matches and kill themselves. I don't care. It's not my body. I just want to watch great matches.
Stop yelling at me. I agree.
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How are you?
I am Joe.
You are Joe. And I'm
That's
Rich.
That's me.
You are Joe, and I'm Rich. And this is the Flagship Podcast on a Wednesday.
We should have a third host to the show.
Third chair?
That's a terrible idea.
No, don't do that. Yeah.
Nobody needs that.
Nobody needs 3 people talking.
some straight man just chiming in. Oh, you guys.
Yeah, we do need that guy. Yeah, we need that guy to.
Yeah.
The straight.
It's
just enter into the zany world, just without any sort of it's just one episode you just hear, and that's Tyler. And Tyler's like, "Hey guys, what's up?" We're like, "All right, Tyler, we're going to we're gonna talk, about Adrian Street." He's like, "Oh, okay, cool." It's just a guy who's just happy to be here.
You hear from him 3 times per hour, and that's it.
Right. Or he does the intro and then goes. That's actually what his gimmick could be. This Tyler, or I'm trying to think. What is a very?
No, you know what it would be.
What would it be?
It's oftentimes a woman because they feel like they have to diversify the show.
We'd have to force it into.
It's like.
That's Tina. All right, Tina. She's like, "Hey, you're listening to the Flagship Podcast. Tina. That's Joe and that's Rich. All right, take it away, guys. Thanks, Tina. How are you, Joe?"
Yeah.
And then we never talk to Tina again.
No. Yeah.
You hear some snickers. It's a video, and we've also pivoted to video too. It's a video podcast too.
She does a news segment once per hour.
That's good. That should be a good gimmick.
And then
she breaks in at the bottom of the hour with the news of the day.
But then we just riff on the news the whole time.
She can't get it in.
And her segment isn't taken seriously.
Finish it. Yeah.
That's what it would be. And she would just and she would just always say, "Oh, you guys," like that.
Okay, I'm listening. I'm writing this down. Actually, I'm going to jot this down. I like this.
Yeah. So that's what it would be. And the third chair talks so infrequently that everyone just forgets that she's there. And then when she talks, everyone's like, "Oh, wait, that's right. Tina is on the show now."
Right.
Forgot about Tina. Yeah.
I like that gimmick. Yeah, so, bottom of the hour news breaks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, it's the bottom of the hour, and I'm Tina here on the Flagship Podcast. Let's talk about the Vince McMahon subpoena. And we're like,
that's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then we just make a big joke of it anyway.
Yeah.
Whatever she's talking about.
Yeah.
Like that, because that's what it could be. So, anyway, if anyone wants to send in a resume, Rich's email is.
Oh yeah. Contact at voicesofwrestling.com. Please send it in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to take all applications, male, female, whatever. Yeah, I don't care.
we'll definitely not bring you on board.
No, yeah, there's a 0% chance I'll respond to your email. I'll say, hey, thanks, so much, but there's a 0% chance you're the third chair on the Flagship Podcast. It's a 2-person operation here. So,
yes,
welcome.
Absolutely.
We're here. We're talking. We got a lot of wrestling to get to this week. It's a busy week. Didn't seem like it was going to be when we do these Wednesday shows. It's always a little bit, they're always a little funky. Obviously, there's sellouts or people are watching Dynamite or doing something else with their night and not listening live. But we got a pretty good number of people chiming in here already. But it tends to, for whatever reason, even though it's just that one day, there seems to be a lot less news. Like anytime we do these Wednesday shows, I'm like, oh man, I don't know. We're not gonna be able to fill in with it. It's something about Thursdays. I don't know what it is about Thursdays, but a lot of stuff comes out on Thursday. A lot of things just kind of seem to work out a little bit better with that one extra day, and that's why we kind of settled on doing Thursdays. Because if people don't know about Flagship lore, we didn't have a day. Forever, it was just like I would text Joe and be like, you want to record tonight? And you're like, yeah, sure. And then we would do it. And that's how it went for a really long amount of time. I don't think we settled truly on Thursdays until, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even longer than
probably.
that. I think it's right around there that we finally settled on, why don't we just have a day where we do the show? And then obviously once we started going live, then it was like, okay, well now we have to declare a day and say what day we're going to normally be. And that's when, Thursdays got locked in. But I think we had already kind of been doing Thursdays for about 5 or 6 years. But yeah, for half the show's life, it was text Joe on Monday, hey, what day of the week works for you? Tuesday works. Okay, cool. Now it's a Tuesday. And we do the show on Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's probably been Thursday for longer than you think. But yeah, it was pretty random, for a while there. It wasn't always weekly in the early days either. In the earliest days, it was more like, hey, we haven't done a show in a while. Is there enough stuff to talk about? And I'd be like, yeah, there's a WWE pay-per-view and something going on in Japan. I'm like, all right, let's do a show this week. And then at some point it just became weekly, but now you're going back like 10, 11 years.
Right. Yeah. Then slowly evolving into picking a day. And that's, Thursday just kind of seemed like, not only for our schedules, but just like it seemed to fit perfectly. There usually wasn't shows on Thursday nights. You were able to kind of escape being up against the show. You were able to escape. It seems like a lot of like, stuff in Japan or whatever would start on the weekend or whatever, or would be, earlier in the week or whatever. So yeah, it always kind of worked that, hey, we could do Thursday. We can cover everything. We can preview everything. WWE shows are coming up on Sunday. The main pay-per-views are going to be on Sunday or Friday. So that if for Impact would do a lot of Friday pay-per-views, still do a lot of Friday pay-per-views. So it just kind of worked with the Thursday. So I was a little worried at the beginning of this week of like, man, I don't know if we're going to have enough to talk about. And then bam, we got a bunch of news this morning, and we're going to talk about all of that. Of course, the remaining elite, first reported by Justin Barrasso of Sports Illustrated, then confirmed via AEW press release that the elite, Bucks, Omega, Hangman Page, remaining with All Elite Wrestling. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll also chime in a little bit. Dynamite 200 is happening as we're recording this. I wanted to at least talk a bit about the accomplishment of getting to 200 episodes for Dynamite, as well as some quick hits on AEW, the Collision number, the All In. We sort of kind of know what is happening for All In terms of if you could watch it on pay-per-view. Your question last week of how can I watch the show, we sort of know, even though they haven't really told us yet, but we'll talk about that. The Collision rating, as I said, we'll touch on that a little bit as well, and a little bit about Collision, because I know people have been saying, hey, you guys really don't cover Collision, you don't talk about Collision enough. So I'll try to get a little bit about Collision. I did a write-up for our Patreon, flagshippatreon.com, over the weekend. So I'll talk a little bit about that, as well as the Collision episode. Vince McMahon, federal search warrant and grand jury subpoena. We'll talk all about that. They disclosed it during their earnings call this morning about that occurring for Vince McMahon. So we'll touch on that, and we'll give the official comments from WWE, the official comments from Vince McMahon, as well as comments from Nick Khan as well. SummerSlam, the biggest party of the summer, or whatever the hell the tagline is for this summer's SummerSlam, coming up live from Ford Field this Saturday on the award-winning Peacock. We will preview it like nobody else, in that it'll probably be a lot shorter than most other previews. Our preview will be incredibly short, most likely, and that will be how we're, most times when people say like nobody else, it's like, oh, we're going to get into excruciating detail. Ours is going to be very, very, very short, I think. And not very detailed. But we're also going to review the Great American Bash, which, Joe, I earlier in the week said you did not have to watch, and you watched, and that is your fault and not my fault. I said I would watch it no matter what. You said you weren't going to watch it, or you didn't want to watch it, and then you watched it anyway. So we are going to review the Great American Bash 2023. We have G1 Climax scenarios. Yes, you have, I believe, figured all of these out, right? And is how many are we talking here? There's a lot, right, that are still on board for all 4 blocks with semifinals.
I mean, I don't really think they're that complicated.
Okay.
I did them all. I did them all on the G1 audio over the last 2 days, and I think I've got them all straight. And, I consulted, Chris Samsa, who is on top of things. And we talked about it in our Voice of Wrestling Slack a little bit today. So I'm pretty sure I have it all straight. And I don't really think they're all that complicated this year.
Okay.
So, the block final shows are coming up this weekend on Saturday. So we have a nice gap here. And this will be useful information, everybody, and get them all set for, the advancement scenarios for everybody who's still alive.
Great. So we'll do that in a little bit. There's some interesting stuff going on in the world of Lucha. Bandido and Big Lucha. It looks like he is done. Likely Gravity done as well with Big Lucha. So we'll touch on that. LuchaBlog.com, Cubs fan, had some report about that. And there's some interesting news and notes going in and around that, and a little bit of wrestling drama that we always like to chime in on. So we'll talk about that, Bandido and Big Lucha. But we'll start the show with this news: the unfortunate passing of Adrian Street at the age of 83. He had been recovering from brain surgery, and let's give a little bit to Adrian Street here, who again passed away at the age of 82. This week for your match of the week that we do at flagshippatreon.com. You did an Adrian Street match, talked a little bit about his career and a little bit about how he obviously a trailblazing pro wrestling character, had a very interesting career, a very long wrestling career, but on Monday passes away at the age of 82. So any thoughts on Adrian Street?
Yeah, Exotic Adrian Street had an extremely long career because he started wrestling as a teenager. And Adrian Street was born in 1940 and started wrestling as a 16 or 17-year-old. So Adrian Street was wrestling basically from the mid-1950s, the mid to late 1950s, until well into the 2010s.
I think his last match is what I looked was 2014. Was in his last match, which is 2014 from, what would you say, 1955, 56,
probably
57, somewhere in that range?
I would say if he started at 16, it'd be 1956, but probably around 56 or 57.
Okay, so 1956/57 to 2014 obviously is not a bad little run there. Obviously, not as much in the later years, but very consistent work up through the late 80s. Very consistent work
into the 90s.
Yeah,
really.
into the 90s.
It's funny, for such a long career, such a large portion of it was in England, and I'm not super familiar with a lot of that work from 57 till about 80, because he didn't come to North America, and I don't know how many people realize this, until he was already in his 40s. So by the time he got to Stampede, after the big disagreement in, he didn't like Big Daddy. That's well known. And Big Daddy was getting the big push, and the wrestling politics, and disputes over pay and all of this. And he badmouthed Big Daddy to anyone who would listen once he got to the United States. But he got hooked up with Stampede in 80 or 81, whatever year that was, and came over with Miss Linda, who had started as a wrestler, but then they became an item. And an item, listen to me, like I'm a 1950s gossip reporter.
Writing for People magazine,
Yeah.
Adrian Street and Miss Linda spotted.
Right.
Are they an item? Longtime
partners, I guess. I don't know, because they didn't get married until they were really old. But they were together and faithful and all that. Well, we assume, for 50, 60 years or whatever it was, but they didn't get married until like 2004 or something like that. So, but everyone assumed that they were married because they were just, wherever he went, she was the manager, so she came over with him to Stampede. And from there, really the relevant portion of his career probably to our listeners, because if you're talking about the European portion of his career prior to that, so little of it is on tape. There's some out there, but and so much of it was so long ago. You're talking about the 50s and 60s. Okay. And then he had a second peak during the dying days of the American territories, which is where I think a lot of our listeners would be far more familiar with his work. But the other thing about it is, because he never worked for WWF, and, I'll get into why as we move it along, and because he really didn't work for, Mid-Atlantic / Jim Crockett Promotions during the hot period that most people, talk about when they talk, which is when Dusty took over as Booker, 85 to 87 is really, or 85 to 88, however you want to term it. That's the hot period of Jim Crockett that most people talk about, that they either lived through it and recognize how great it was, or that's the period on tape that most people go back and watch, younger people. And Adrian Street was there like in 84, 83, 84, 85, like right before Dusty took over the book. And there was that huge roster turnover. Whoever was there before Dusty, I guess it either would have been Dory Funk Jr. or Paul Jones, or, whoever the booker was in 84, 85, before Dusty came back, before Dusty took over the book. And then Dusty really turned over almost the entire roster. He retained Tully Blanchard, but then he brought in Magnum TA. And they eventually brought in the Road Warriors, and he brought in, like Nikita Koloff, and and Crusher Khrushchev, and put the Russians together.
Right. The roster that the roster when you close your eyes and think Jim Crockett Promotions at its peak, that roster.
That's Dusty's roster.
Yeah.
Yeah. The guys before that in the era prior, which was like the Assassins. And,
I was going to say the Assassins.
Johnny Weaver.
Yeah.
Just people like that. And he retained a few, Dusty retained Jimmy Valiant, and he retained Paul Jones, and he retained, Tully was there before, he kept some of them around, but a lot of the older guys that were hanging around, like, Dusty eventually worked those guys out. And the point here is Adrian Street was sort of part of that crew, and he didn't make it to like the glory days of Crockett, which is, the Four Horsemen and the Road Warriors and the Russians and Magnum TA and Dusty chasing Flair and, all the shit that everybody is intimately familiar with. So because of that, because he never worked WWF, and because he the timing was just wrong with his Crockett run, there's a lot of fans who haven't seen a ton of exotic Adrian Street. I know when I was a kid and I was reading the Aftermags, I was familiar with exotic Adrian Street because he was all over the magazines. He was one of those guys who he knew how to market himself, and he was in good with the Aftermags. He always had like a full page ad with his merchandise and his videotapes and his albums and shit like that. And they would always write about him, no matter what territory he was in. He would always get press in those magazines. So he was very smart about that. So I knew who he was, even though I had never actually seen him wrestle. Right? And I had read about all those great feuds that he had in Continental with Wendell Cooley and in Mid-South with Terry Taylor. Like, I knew about all that stuff from reading about it, but I had never seen any of it, living in New Jersey, and him not being in any of the television promotions that I had access to. It wasn't until years later when I started watching tapes that I saw him work. But he was really in the United States, or North America, if you want to toss in, Stampede. And he also went down to Mexico a bit too, where I'm sure the gimmick got over, and like it did everywhere. And you're really talking like the decade of the 80s, when he was in his 40s, like mid to late 40s by the end of the decade. So it was kind of like a second peak for his career. the first peak coming in the 60s and 70s, and then peaking in a different part of the world in the 80s. But his runs that I remember best and that, I'm most familiar with are Continental, number one, from about 85 to 80, well, really the back half of the 80s. But really, you would laser focus on 86, which I thought was really a big year for him, because that's when the NWA Southeastern title was basically built around Adrian Street. He comes into the territory, in late 85 and feuds with Austin Idol, takes the title off of Austin Idol. And then it's just a series of feuds with, whether it was Norval Austin or Wendell, Wildcat Wendell Cooley or Tommy Rogers. And, the title would bounce back and forth between these guys, but it was always, the centerpiece was always Adrian Street. And the Wendell Cooley feud is the one that stands out in my mind when I think about the 86 Continental run. And the good thing about that, Rich, is we know Continental / Southeastern footage, and it was Continental at this time. And the reason that it became Continental, like that territory, the Fullers and the Armstrongs, the Fullers, it would change names constantly. And that's because they were constantly selling the promotion, buying it back,
right.
opening up an LLC, closing the LLC. And they were playing money games constantly. It was a shell game. Okay. But the reason that it eventually became Continental is during that period of the 80s, they had to do what everybody had to try to do to survive, and that was go national to compete with Vince. Otherwise, he was just going to snuff you out. So the name changed from Southeastern, which was a very regional name, and they went with Continental to basically represent the 48 states. If you watch some of those Continental TV episodes, it opens up with, Gordon Soley or whoever it is, Joey Votto, second home run of the night.
Look at that.
Sorry.
That's fine.
It opens up with Gordon Soley or whoever it is. This is a live show, Rich. And he says, Continental Wrestling, bringing together the greatest wrestlers of the continental United States, or whatever it is. Like, you could see that they're making an effort. Look, hey, we're national too.
Everybody did that too. Every promotion, Universal to, it can't be Mid-South. It's Universal. Everybody tried to go a little bit. I'm surprised nobody went Galaxy and Solar. Everybody had to be, we're Universal. It's a whole universe.
It kind of did do global.
Global's still the world though. Yeah, Universal maybe went the most daunting with just like, we're not Mid-South. We're the entire universe. It's like, all right, Bill.
Yeah.
Chill out, Bill Watts. But they all did that. It was all, everybody was clinging to the last bit of whatever the fuck they could figure out. You know what I mean? The last bit of we have to stay alive in Vince's world. We have to stay alive in this new, expanded post-territory world. So every company became something bigger. It couldn't just be the Universal Wrestling, the Continental Wrestling. Like you said, it had yeah. USWA, it can't be Memphis. It's got to be the United States Wrestling Association. It's got to be everybody.
That's another great one.
Yeah.
That's another great one. And what they also did in Continental was they took the show out of that studio and they taped in Birmingham every Monday in the bigger building to make it, look like it was a bigger opera. You had to. You didn't have a chance doing your small studio shows anymore. Even that the gas even ran out on that in Memphis a few years later. I guess it lasted well into the 90s and even the 2000s, but not at the same level, right? Like it was just running on fumes at that point.
Yeah, for sure.
But so anyway, it was that era of Continental Championship Wrestling, and at that time, that NWA Southeastern title at various times was their biggest title. That was their title. Now later they introduced I don't know what they called it. Maybe you could find it, but like a Continental World title or whatever, which usurped the Southeastern title and sort of became their most important title. Because again, if you're going to present yourself as a national company, you're going to want to have a world champion and not this regionalized top champion, right? So so instead of turning the Southeastern title into a world title, they just rolled out another title in like 88.
Right.
It was either 87 or 88 when they rolled out their version of the world title.
I think are you talking about the CWF Heavyweight Championship?
CWF, that's probably it. Yeah. What was that? 87.
That was. Let me scroll here. Well, it says it started in 1984, which I don't know if that
might, I could be off. But Continental was weird too because they would have like a southeastern champion for the northern part of the territory.
Right,
then they would
right.
have another champion for the southern part of the territory, which covered like the Florida Panhandle. And the Fullers were very crafty promoters.
Yes, they were.
Put it that way.
Yes.
Okay, so
a lot of championships. Yes, there was
and
quite a
thing
number.
about
The
the
NWA
Fullers-
Alabama Heavyweight Championship, the Southeastern Heavyweight Champion. There was a lot of heavyweight champions.
Yeah,
the
and
Tennessee
they were
Tag
guys-
Team
and-
Champions. That's-
And the other thing about the Fullers is they didn't want magazine coverage. They were one of the few territories that didn't want the aftermags around. They didn't want magazine coverage. They wanted to retain kayfabe for their market as much as they could, right? So that they can do like a split territory at times and all of these different things. So they weren't interested in magazine coverage or anything, which again is kind of why it's the lost territory. That and the fact that there's very sparse television footage for a lot of the years because that stuff all just got destroyed and changed ownership so many times. But the long-winded point that I'm trying to make here is when it, circling back to exotic Adrian Street, is when he peaked and really was arguably the top star of the territory in 86. That just so happens to be maybe the most fruitful year that we have of continental footage. Like, we have so much of 1986. Like, there's tons of that out there. So a lot of his run and a lot of these feuds that I'm talking about, particularly the Wildcat Wendell Cooley feud, that footage is plentiful. You should have no problem finding that if you want a little taste of what Adrian Street was all about. And keep in mind, by this point, he's 46 years old. That's the other thing. Like, and I'm talking 1980s in their 40s. And we talk about this all the time. Like, guys were completely fucking finished by the time they hit their 40s back then with all the drugs, and they didn't take care of their bodies and just
sleep.
the
All they did was
lifestyles.
drink and drive and take all sorts of drugs and fuck and then
I
drive
mean,
to the next
let's-
town. And they lived horrific lives.
Let's face it, Buck Robley wasn't a prime athlete. It's like,
No.
that's just how
Yeah,
these guys
they
were.
didn't start. They didn't start from the prime athletics either. Nor did they take any sort of. There was no concept of nutrition or sleep or any of that sort of stuff.
So, he's 46, but the thing was, he was into bodybuilding at a young age. He was a shooter back in England and learned how to wrestle legitimately. So, he and plus with all the makeup and the nature of the gimmick and everything, he didn't look 46 years old. He didn't look like a spring chicken, but he had the big barrel chest. He almost had a luchador body.
Yeah,
Like the luchadors of that era. With the big barrel chest and everything, and he was short. I don't think people realize how tiny he was, which is probably why McMahon never signed him, because he was probably a legit 5'5". Okay, if you look, there's a picture floating around of him with Triple H. Now, granted, he's in his 80s by then, and he probably shrunk a couple inches. But the idea here is you can see that he was shorter than Miss Linda. This was probably a guy who was about 5'5" during the prime of his life in an era of monsters. Okay, so you had to have the over-the-top gimmick. You had to bring something else to the table. And, I will always think of that 86 era of Continental when I think, and I will also think about another good run because he was someone who really bounced from territory to territory, never overstayed his welcome. He'd come in, the gimmick would get over, a lot like Kamala, okay, in that the gimmick would get over, and then, you do a couple programs, and then it's like you move on. And you restart the process somewhere else. And then maybe you come back a couple years later, maybe you don't. Because I remember 84 in Mid-South. That's probably another one of his more memorable runs. Because remember, we're only talking about 10 years here, just the 80s. So it's a really condensed career for somebody who wrestled for 60 years in terms of, American career. The 84 Mid-South run with the Terry Taylor feud. And that's probably the most memorable feud of that run that he had in 84 in Mid-South. And the big angle was he planted the kiss on Terry Taylor and then beat him for his whatever title it was, whatever secondary title that was. And then and an angle that most certainly, Rich, the wokes aren't going to like this one, Rich.
No, they are not. Preemptive yikes. All right, here we go.
A very much 80s angle where the follow-up was Adrian Street was wrestling Chris Adams. And this is all on YouTube, by the way. And Terry Taylor comes down during the match, forces a kiss on Miss Linda. That's number one.
To raucous cheers from the crowd, of course.
Raucous cheers from the crowd.
Right.
I mean,
Get that kiss.
Kiss her. Fuck her. And then so Taylor's kissing her. He releases the kiss. She's smiling ear to ear, like, oh, that was
she
great.
likes
Sexual
it.
assault me, baby.
Right,
yeah. So she's enjoying it. The announcers are loving it. The fans are loving it. And Adrian Street hops out of the ring. And does he go after Terry Taylor? No, he beats the shit out of Miss Linda for enjoying Terry Taylor's kiss and then drags her to the back.
Yikes.
This, of course, got incredible heat for the time.
Right.
In an angle that, my God, you would never want to.
No, dear God.
Everything. I think every single thing about that angle is wrong.
Right.
Like, there's not one thing about that angle. You have a baby face forcing a kiss. You've got the woman portrayed as enjoying it. And then the heel comes out and doesn't go after the baby face. He beats up his wife.
Yeah, he's not mad at the guy who came and forced himself onto his lady. He's mad at the lady for enjoying it or whatever. Right. Yeah, not gonna get that one. Yeah, that one's not gonna get out of the room. That won't meet the standards.
Because her whole reaction was, "Ooh, I want more of that. This Terry Taylor, that's a real man." Like that's like how she reacts in the story, and and then you go from there. But he went everywhere. I mean, he was in Florida for a while, and which is interesting because when he was in Florida, he worked programs with and against Dusty Rhodes. Like, I think Florida was one of the places that even tried him as a babyface. He turned babyface eventually in Continental too. That's the thing. He didn't always work as a heel. And when we talk more about his gimmick, we can get into that. But he worked Florida both with and against Dusty, which what's interesting about that is Dusty never brought him into Crockett, which I never, because it's obvious that Dusty liked him. Dusty had pushed him in the past. I've never read anything that they had any heat with that run. So it was interesting to me. Now, Dusty may have used him very early in the Crockett period, very early, but he definitely wasn't there during the glory years, and they never brought him back. And maybe just because he was doing so well in Continental, maybe, who knows, maybe Dusty wanted to bring him in, but he was, I can't imagine he was making tons of money in Continental at that time. Continental was dying. So I don't know. It's just weird that he never worked Crockett during the glory years, because it's obvious that Dusty liked him, unless there's some heat I don't know about. He worked Memphis. He was in and out of Memphis a lot. He had programs with Jerry Lawler. You can only imagine how those played out. Jerry Lawler against a flamboyant,
anything. If it's anything like his Goldust run, then probably
pretty much. Rich.
A lot of yikes. A lot of yikes around that one too. Yes, where
a lot of yikes around. Because here's the thing. I think most people are probably familiar with the gimmick, but it was basically, the Mexican Exoticos, or
Exotico.
Goldust, or the flamboyant, over the top, feminine mannerisms. But the thing about Adrian Street, very rarely, and quite honestly, I can't think of a single instance, did he portray himself as gay, or did the promotion portray him as gay? Maybe in Memphis, because they were a little wilder. The idea behind the gimmick was a little different. It was almost like he always had Miss Linda. Okay. He was always had his, and everyone knew that was his woman. And it was almost like the gimmick was more psychological, preying off the insecurities of like these Southern backwoods fans.
Right. It's similar to what they did with Goldust after a certain point. Because when Goldust first came into the WWF, make no question, there was a lot of that. But
I disagree. I think it's more like Goldust when he started with Marlena, and the idea of, okay, is this guy gay, or is he fucking with people because people are insecure about gay people? Right? Do you see where I'm going with that?
No, I got you. Yeah, maybe it is a little bit more of that era. I was thinking, because there was some, they really towed the line a little bit. And then there was this one point where I think they realized that they were towing the line a little too much. and they had like, I think it was Jerry Lawler that literally came in the ring, said, Goldust, are you, you know, and Goldust like, what? And they're like, are you, you know what I'm saying? And Goldust is like, no, I don't know. What are you saying? And then Lawler was just like, queer. He just said it real fast, like, because he knew he was like, I don't really want to say this, but I have to say this. And then, then Goldust said, oh, no, I'm not. But I see what you're saying. He was maybe a little bit more before that run where he would, you know, Goldust would, you know, get a little, you know, he'd touch the wrestler in a provocative way and get Razor Ramon all sort of pissed off and stuff, and then win his title from him. You know what I mean? And then win the Intercontinental title because Razor Ramon was too worried about that, or Ahmed Johnson was too worried. So, yeah, I guess you're right. It was probably a little bit more of that early Goldust run.
Yeah, where it was more like an androgynous gimmick. You know, Adrian Street called himself a transvestite, which is a term which is now pretty much frowned upon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In that community, but at the time it wasn't. And that's how he portrayed himself. What you would call today like a cross-dresser or a drag queen or something like that. It's closer, you know, to that sort of deal.
Yeah, he's doing drag more than anything. He's
doing drag more than anything. Now, not every territory was the same. Okay, now there were some territories where he would go, and they would do the deal where it was like, all right, he had Miss Linda, and like the deal was like Miss Linda wanted to fuck him, but he didn't want to fuck her, and that was the heat. Right, so they would do that sometimes.
What's wrong with this guy?
right. That kind of thing.
Why does this guy not want to fuck that woman? It's like,
but then there were places like Mid-South where they would put him over as a tough guy who just had this, who was playing mind games with everybody.
Yeah.
Like in Mid-South and some other places, they would acknowledge his legitimate tough guy background, which he did have, and he did have a rep for being able to handle himself. And the idea was, he's flamboyant and he might be a little weird, but don't let him fool you. He can kick your ass. You know, that was the idea behind the character. So it did kind of fluctuate based on, you know, the territory or whatever. But, you know, and he wasn't gay. I mean, you know, Linda was his eventual wife, but, you know, it's not unlike, you know, like Dalton Castle, who is, as far as I know, straight, but portrays what's clearly meant to be a gay character, right? I think that's pretty fair that the Dalton Castle character is meant to be gay. And then you have like Maximo in Mexico, which is another straight man with like, you know, a straight man with a family. And again, that character is portrayed to be gay, like, and does all the gay panic spots like Dino does in Japan. Like Maximo and Dino do all the gay panic spots where they'll kiss the baby for the heels or, you know, or whatever. And they're like, oh, yucky. Oh, man just kissed me. This is disgusting. I you know, wiping their face and acting like they want to die. You know, like Adrian Street did do some of that. I mean, he did the angle with Terry Taylor where he kissed him and then stole his title, but it wasn't always that kind. It really depended what territory he was in at the time. And like I said, in a lot of these places, he also was a babyface. So in Continental, he was a heel for so long that eventually, you know, he got over. And by the end of that run, you know, he was working as a face. So, so that was kind of the idea behind the gimmick. You know, I liken it to some of the examples I just said, and like early Goldust, where, you know, the Marlena era of Goldust, where it was like more of an androgynous kind of character. And yeah, it was Vince McMahon and it was the 90s. And there was, you know, a lot of the heat was on gay people, of course, but I think the essence of the Goldust character was more like, who's the problem here, me or you?
Right. Why are you so worried about me? Like, why is this bothering you so much that I act like this, or I wear this, or, you know, I walk around the ring and I do this, and I'm wearing a robe, and why are you so worried about this, Razor Ramon, as opposed to, you know, and that was kind of the heat. And yeah, I agree that's what that character, I think, what Dustin Rhodes was going for with that character. And it might not have been hit. It might not have been, the whole company might not have been in on it as much. They may have thought, you know, simply it was just, oh my God, here's this gay guy, and oh my God, it's scary or whatever. But I'm confident that Dustin Rhodes himself knew what he was doing, and it was a little bit of this character, like you're saying, this little bit of a, you know, why are you so threatened by this? Like, you should look at yourself. Like, I'm playing, you know, quote unquote mind games here, and you're the one that's all threatened. What's wrong with you? You know, what's wrong with you in this scenario, not what's wrong with me. So that I think it's a little bit of what they're trying to do there.
And I think that was a lot of the essence of Exotic Adrian Street.
Yeah.
And you know, obviously this all started with Gorgeous George, but Exotic Adrian Street was the next step. And it especially got over as a heel act in a lot of these Southern territories, in the 80s, in the early 80s. And, and then, by the late 80s, he kind of planted his flag in the continental area, Birmingham, and, really worked that territory until it didn't exist anymore. After it got purchased. Who was the guy who bought Continental from the final? It was the hell was that guy?
David Woods. Wasn't that the guy's name? David Woods.
David Woods, and then they put it on like the Financial News Network or something.
Yeah, of course.
And,
right, exactly. What Continental Wrestling Federation needs to be on is that did not last long.
So he was there through the Woods era, and then
David Woods.
Anytime throughout the 90s that one of these new sort of pop-up indies that had ideas on either being national or ideas on being like a regional indie, anytime one of these new things would pop up, like Adrian Street was one of the first phone calls and would always work for those types of promotions, especially in that area of the country, the Alabama area.
Because he did global a little bit, right? He was global, right? Yeah.
Early global. Yeah, definitely early global when they brought in basically any name that wasn't already with WWF or WCW, global, global brought them all in. And, he was one of them in those early days. Not his first time. He worked for the Blanchards in, the Southwest Championship Wrestling, was in and out of there, even when they were on USA Network. So during that era. That was another one of the territories he worked a lot. So he worked most of those Southern territories. Now, I don't think he ever got out to Portland. And like I said, he never worked WWF. And, by the time he got to the United States, like a lot of the territories were either already dead or like he never worked like a lot of those 70s territories. Like he never worked for the Sheik up in Detroit or anything like that. Like he was a Southern territory heel. That's what Adrian Street was, who was bolstered by the magazines and knew how to market himself, and never really worked like the AWA. It was more Memphis and Continental, and that part of the country is really what it was. A little bit of Florida, Texas here or there, but a very, very memorable character. And the other thing about him, he wrote and performed his own theme song, which I don't know if Imagine What I Could Do to You. I don't know if it predated Bad Street USA. It was the same time period. I couldn't tell you which one was first in terms of, entrance themes that were performed by the wrestler themselves. But, there's another innovation, whether, Bad Street edged them out by a couple years or not. I still think that would be one of the more famous versions of someone coming out to their own theme song. And a very memorable song. You listen to him come out. His entrance was very memorable. He's coming out to this song. And the whole idea behind the song was what the gimmick was. Like, okay, look at me, but you know what? I'm going to kick your ass. Here's all the things I can do despite what I look like and despite how I live my lifestyle. Imagine what I could do to you. Like, that's the whole idea behind the entrance song.
Right. And the other famous song too, which is, again, a term that is not used at all anymore, but speaks to the character, like you said, I might dress like this, but I'm a fucking badass and I'll whoop your ass, is a sweet transvestite with a broken nose was the other one that he did, which again speaks to the, hey, look at me, but I got a broken nose, which means I've seen some shit. I've been in some fights, and you know what? I can whoop your ass. Trust me. So, think less of me if you want, but you're about to find out what I'm at, what I can actually bring, which is cool.
Yeah, and he recorded whole ass albums. This was not just, this was someone who put out albums and made music. Tons of all the music videos are on YouTube. They're all there. But it never got the run with McMahon. But at the same exact time that he was peaking, they did the adorable Adrian Adonis gimmick, which was the same fucking gimmick. But I do think the adorable Adrian Adonis gimmick was way more on the nose in terms of this is a gay man and you should hate him because he's gay.
There was WWE subtlety hammer with that one for sure. Yeah, that was
right. That was way more on the nose, and it's like because Adrian Adonis, if people don't know, like after the tag teams with Ventura and Dick Murdoch kind of fizzled out, Ventura had to retire, and then they did the North-South. That was the East-West connection, or not as the North-South connection, and then the tag team with Murdoch, that was the North-South. One was they were one or the other, each of them. And then, Murdoch leaves and they lose the tag team titles. Murdoch leaves. So then Adonis is managed by Bobby Heenan, and he's still doing like Adonis's gimmick before adorable Adrian Adonis was like a leather wearing like street gang New Yorker is what he was. He had the leather jacket, the leather hat. And he was like a street thug, like a tough off the streets, like a guy in the stereotypical late 70s, early 80s New York City before it got cleaned up gang, like that kind of thing. But he was carrying around this briefcase that said, "Relax with Trudy." And no one knew what the fuck it meant. He started carrying around this briefcase. And then Bobby Heenan does the trade with Jimmy Hart. And I think it was, what was it? Adrian Adonis and Missing Link for King Kong Bundy. Is that what the trade was?
The trade. Yeah. Let me get the exact. I don't know. There's some draft picks that got sent into.
Yeah.
But,
pull up the exact parameters of that trade.
Yeah. Let's find out the colossal trade.
I know that Adonis went to Hart and Bundy went to Heenan, but I know that Missing Link was involved.
Yeah, he was, but I forget. It was. I think you got it right there. I had it and I lost it. God, here, one sec. I'll find it again. King Kong, yes. King Kong. Okay, yes. It was Heenan trading the Missing Link and Adrian Adonis to manager Jimmy Hart in exchange for King Kong Bundy. That was in September of 1985, which ended up being I would say a decent deal for Heenan because obviously he got the WrestleMania 2 main event there with King Kong Bundy and Hulk Hogan. But Jimmy Hart, good value though out of Missing Link and Adrian Adonis. But probably better better return for Heenan. I guess though long term return not great because Adonis would last until WrestleMania 3, right? A little bit after WrestleMania 3 he'd last, so he'd get an extra year.
Little after,
he'd get an extra year out of Adonis, whereas King Kong was pretty much wrapped up at that point after WrestleMania 2.
So he's carrying around this briefcase. He gets traded to Jimmy Hart. And that's how WWF changed managers back then. They would do trades. That shit
They
rocked.
cared so much about logic that like they did. Yeah. It wouldn't make sense for a guy to just be managed by another guy without there being a reason for it. I love it. And now
so they come on TV and do a trade.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And each guy would think they were getting better than the other.
Yeah. I would kill. Oh God, I would kill for that sort of logic in modern pro wrestling. Just a little bit of a thought about it. It's not that big. It didn't take that big of a segment. It wasn't that, but just enough to say, well, there needs to be a reason why this man is now managed by this guy.
So then Adonis is getting like more and more flamboyant. He gives away his leather jacket to Roddy Piper, right? And that's the leather jacket that Roddy Piper wore until his death. Like whenever Roddy Piper would come on TV with a leather jacket, it was often that leather jacket that Adonis gave to him in that segment on Piper's Pit, or whatever it was. And then he just he dyed his hair and started wearing the pink and the ribbons and basically doing the Adrian Street gimmick. But like we said, less subtle and way more on the nose. And the entire idea was he's gay and you're supposed to not like him because he's gay. And that was kind of never explicitly explained, but it seems like the setup for that was this briefcase that said "Relax with Trudy." I guess the idea was Adrian Street, this guy who was Adrian Adonis, this guy who was this street thug, was a cross-dresser in his spare time who called himself Trudy. And I guess that's the connection everyone makes now, even though that was never explicitly laid out. So it was like kind of maybe, whether that was the idea, it sure adds up and makes a lot of sense, right? He's walking around with this briefcase and, I'm this big tough wrestler, but in my spare time when I'm relaxing, I am Trudy, this, that my cross-dressing persona or whatever. And then that just became adorable Adrian Adonis. But anyway, that gimmick was pretty much what exotic Adrian Street had been doing the whole decade. And, but you're talking about a guy who was 5'5" and didn't really work the style. And McMahon, I guess, just went with his own guy who he knew and was familiar with. And like you said, it went to about WrestleMania 3. He got his head shaved after he lost to Piper in Piper's retirement match. And Beefcake cut his hair. And that was the Beefcake face turn. And that was the birth of Brutus the Barber Beefcake, because he cut Adrian Adonis's hair. And then Adonis did do one television taping with the shaved head, which was meant to be super embarrassing. But at that one taping, he started working with an Edge again. I did that for Match of the Week a few weeks
you did?
ago.
Yeah, I do remember that now. Yeah. There's a very, very rare footage, but yeah, a rare occurrence. But yeah, Adrian Adonis showing up, after the hair match on WWF television, like you said, kind of going back to that old, not all the way there, but enough there of like, all right, I'm letting go of that character and I'm back to having a little bit of an edge, but it didn't last very long. But yeah, that was your match of the week, flagshippatreon.com, a couple of weeks ago.
It didn't last because he went on the road to work the program with Beefcake and he got fired again. And that was it. They never brought him back, and he died before they brought him back. He gained all that weight and got into drugs, and he got fired for like the third time, and that was that. But he was working. It looked like it was possible that they were going to slowly revert him back to his old persona, because he worked a more rugged style in that match, and he had less makeup on, and he didn't have all the ribbons and all that. And he still had the same look, but he didn't have any of the mannerisms anymore. It was clear that there was a change of direction coming, but we never saw it play out. And then he died. He got fired. He went to the AWA. He was doing the same adorable. He called himself Adorable Adrian Adonis. He was managed by Paulie Dangerously in the first version of the Dangerous Alliance, before the WCW version, with the original Midnight Express and Adrian Adonis. He called himself Adorable Adrian Adonis, but again, he didn't really do the over-the-top flamboyant part of the act. He just wore the pink and just wrestled like a guy, like a normal guy. He didn't do any of the mannerisms, or the idea wasn't there's heat on him because he's gay, right? So it's like, and then, we all know what happened. He ended up dying, before he was able to completely revive his career. But anyway, the point here is pretty much a knockoff of the exotic Adrian Street gimmick, who had the gimmick perfected. But very influential, obviously, Adrian Street, to this day. It's kind of the, if you're going to do that kind of gimmick, and they're all over the place, still Mexico, United States, it's a gimmick that always seems to work. Obviously done with more subtlety today and, in different ways versus 40 years ago. But that's the template, is exotic Adrian Street, so, and influential in a lot of ways, marketing himself, the theme song, the gimmick, all of it. So, again, if you're looking for footage, the 86 Continental stuff is all over the place. The 84 Mid-South stuff is all over the place. I saw some Memphis stuff floating around on YouTube, a match against Randy Savage, some of the stuff versus Lawler. It's not that hard to find. You can find plenty of Adrian Street if right there on YouTube if you want to, and get a feel for what he was all about. But dies at the age of 83, lived a long life. Again, was a bodybuilder, was always in great shape. 83, that's a legitimate life lived, so that's it. Exotic Adrian Street. Got anything to add?
There you go. Nothing else to add there. I'll definitely, again, recommend the match of the week, something we do on our Patreon. One of the best things about our Patreon, I think, over there at flagshippatreon.com, patreon.com/voices of wrestling, and voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon. It's not just a match link and then, hey, here's this match, go watch it. It's a match link with paragraphs usually about the match, the background of the match, the reason for it being selected as the match, what it meant, what led up to it, what happened after it, or whatever. So always recommended that. And this week's was an Adrian Street match, so from Continental, one of the famous feuds, and a little bit of background about that as well. So definitely recommend checking that out. And that's the life and the career of Adrian Street. And like you said, it's hard to find, like, not the type of wrestler that you could just type in Adrian Street on YouTube and like get like the best matches. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know. It's not a match thing. That's not what Adrian Street is. It's a vibes thing. It's a character more so than anything. And you're gonna be hard pressed to sit down and slap your hands together and go, all right, let me see the best Adrian Street matches. That's just not the way to consume it. That's not the way to think about Adrian Street. The way to think about it is the character, and remember what era this character was happening in, and what was going on in the world, and just, you know, this might not seem like that wild of a character, you know, in 2023, and oh my god, but yeah, think about the places, the time, and the place that a lot of it was happening, and the thing that I always remember about Adrian Street is that iconic photo done by some British publication. I don't know the one off the top of my head, but it's a black and white photo. It's Adrian Street with long hair, straightened, and stickers all over his face and makeup on, and then his father, a miner, next to him. And his father's got, like, you know, soot all over his face and just looks like hell. Like, he just looks like the guy that does the toughest fucking job all times of the day. And there he is, you know, juxtaposed with his son, Adrian Street here, who's got, you know, straightened hair and stickers and makeup and sparkles on his face and stuff. It's an iconic photo, and I'm sure you've seen it this week, even if you don't know that you've seen it. But that photo of, if you're wondering why you see Adrian Street with, like, some miner looking guy, that's him and his father, and they did a story about how his father had been a miner for like 45 years, and Adrian Street was like, I don't want to be a miner, and this is what I'm doing instead. And just, yeah, the craziness that you know, can come from this wild profession that is professional wrestling. So there you go. That is Adrian Street. The life and career, again, passed away at the age of 82. All right, let's get to let's talk about a little AEW here before we get into the WWE portion of this show. First reported by Sports Illustrated, as we said, then confirmed by AEW press release later in the day. The Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and Hangman Adam Page are remaining with All Elite Wrestling on new multi-year deals. The press release said, quote, ahead of tonight's landmark 200th episode of AEW Dynamite live on TBS, AEW CEO, GM, and head of creative Tony Khan announced that the EVPs, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, as well as Hangman Adam Page, have signed long-term extensions with AEW. The announcement ensures the four cornerstones key to the launch of AEW in 2019 will remain with the promotion, where they have helped build AEW into a household name across the globe and competed in some of the most critically acclaimed matches in professional wrestling history. So there we go. Freakouts not needed anymore. The Bucks, Omega, and Page are hanging around for long-term extensions. How long-term those long-terms are, we don't know yet, but multi-year extensions as far as we know. And now, Joe, the only question is, do the Young Bucks leave in 2027? Let's start asking about it now and freaking out about it now, please. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised they got it done and signed all these guys. You know, it wouldn't have shocked me if some of them, you know, if Omega would have tried his hand with the WWF. You can't look at how they've handled Cody and not think that Omega didn't think to himself, that looks enticing, right? So it's especially since he's creeping up past 40 now and everything else, however old he is, probably around 40. You know, injuries piling up. But you know, if I would have set betting odds on it, I would have thought that they were going to ultimately stay with AEW, even if I would have put it at like 80-20.
Yeah. I wouldn't be stunned. I wouldn't like fall down with, you know, oh my God, are you kidding me if they went to WWE? But the betting favorite had to be them sticking with AEW. No doubt.
Yeah. So, you know, that's resolved, and it gives you some booking peace of mind when you know that those guys are all going to be around for, you know, another whatever. How many years did you say? 5 years?
They don't know. They don't know just yet. It said multi-year, long-term. Two terms were used. At one point, multi-year was used, and then the other time, long-term extensions were used. So long-term feels like more than 2 years, I would say. I don't know, some 3 to 5, I would say, if I say long-term. But I don't know. Multi-year, I guess.
You know, it's because wrestling is still this stupid close society.
So we don't know. Yeah, we don't know. It's just we have to read the tea leaves.
Ask,
we could ask, and then we would just get, you know.
And they won't answer.
Right.
And if it gets out, they'll try to find the leaker and like fire him.
Right.
It's just a stupid.
Or say, if you only knew the whole story, okay, tell us the story. Yeah. That's my favorite wrestling trope is, don't believe this bullshit. Okay, well then what's the real story, sir? Please enlighten me.
You control whether there's bullshit or not. Like, you can tell us what the story is. You know, it's but wrestlers always play that card because they operate in this little secret society. And you know what? If you're going to operate in that little secret society, okay. But then don't go public and say, well, if you only knew the real story, the dirt sheet. Well, no, you can't have it both ways, okay? Right. Either just keep your mouth, and plenty of them do, keep your mouth shut and live in your little secret society, or be transparent with the media and say what you have to say. You know, don't do the thing where you're like, oh, well, that story's all wrong. Wait till the real truth comes out. Well, how about you fucking call me and tell me the real truth then? I'd be happy to share it with everybody, but, that's the fucking ridiculous, stupid business that this is. But, man, I wasn't expecting to have that rant. But
no, you're good. I saw it. Did you see Ali did that earlier today? He tried to dunk on like Cultaholic or whatever because they had a headline. He's like, you guys really fall for these shitty clickbait headlines. And then to Cultaholic's credit, I forget the exact guy's name. He basically replied with like, well, isn't the quote that you like the exact like the quote in the piece is what the headline is. So it's like, well, what is it, pal? You can't be. And then then he started getting it's yeah, that's not how it is. Okay, all right, dude.
The people inside the wrestling business can shut down every one of these shitty clickbait sites and these copy and paste sites and these aggregator sites tomorrow if they chose to. Do you know how they could do that? By being transparent with the good media that's out there. Then there is no open to interpretation to any of these things, and we all just know shit like we do in every other sport, and we do in and all these other endeavors where there's open communication with real media. You don't like Cultaholic or WrestleZone or any of these fucking sites with these clowns, okay? You have the power to put them out of business. You choose not to, and that's fine.
Jeez, poor Cultaholic.
But again, you can't have it both ways then.
Cultaholic get some strays there. I don't know if they're clowns, but
who cares? Have you ever gone to Cultaholic
I was
on
a
purpose?
guest on Cultaholic, sir. They called me.
Well.
When
I'm tugging the collar.
Yeah. When Carl Anderson was definitely going to WWE, who'd they call? They called me.
I gotta tell you, I think I'm confusing Cultaholic with another site. I apologize to the fine people at Cultaholic.
Yeah, please, come on.
Yes.
Leave it for the Z's. There's no Z in their title. Come on. There's a Wrestle News with a Z and 3 Z's or 4 Z's. Yeah.
Listen, I've never gone to I swear to you, any of these sites on purpose. Not one time.
I don't know how many times you went to Voices of Wrestling. Honestly.
Very rarely.
If we're being honest.
Not since I stopped writing for it, baby. No, but I never wake up in the morning and crack my knuckles and say to myself, let's see what Wrestling Inc.'s got going on today. Not one time, Rich. In my life have I ever done that. Anyway, what were you talking about? The Elite?
The Elite. They're remaining Elite. So I don't know. Yeah, it's a big story in terms of the fact that, now you don't have to kind of worry about it and the people hand-wringing and, oh, my God, they're going to bring back CM Punk and that's going to make everybody want to leave and everyone's going to leave in droves. And especially when the Cody doc came out this week and there was little, bits and pieces and drops and quotes from that or whatever, which I have not seen. I'm probably not going to watch. But, it's like, oh, my God, look. Yeah, like you said, it's kind of like, oh, look what's going on with Cody and WWE. Like, how could you not look at that and want to be a part of that or whatever? And then you have CM Punk and then you have all that. And it's like, and the guy's just re-signed. So it's like, okay, well, we'll have to learn. We'll have to figure out something else to freak out about over the next couple of weeks in Dynamite. I'm sure the AEW Women's Division will keep the tide rolling for a couple of weeks until we have a new thing to freak out about. So no, that has been a day one thing, and it is still going on to this day. Every single day, you go into our Discord at any time of the day. You can go at 1 a.m. You can go at 1 p.m. You can go at 10 p.m. You can go at 10 a.m. Somebody is arguing about the AEW Women's Division on there, and that has been true since September 2019, and it will be true until September 2029 or whenever the hell Dynamite goes away, because people love arguing about the AEW Women's Division and thinking about who they could bring in to save the AEW Women's Division. So.
How do we fix this? How about we just don't do anything? Who cares? I'm so sick of hearing about this AEW Women's Division.
From day one, from episode 1, day 1. It has not stopped. So some other AEW quick hitters here. AEW, as of, obviously as we're recording this show, and the show's going live, airing their 200th episode of Dynamite tonight. They're halfway to the run of ECW Hardcore TV, which went off the air at exactly 400 episodes. They are 88 away from the entire run of WCW Monday Nitro. I always find that fascinating, how close they are to Nitro. And for Jim Cornette, they have 5 more episodes than Smoky Mountain Wrestling ever had. So,
wow.
It's a long time. They've been around a while. That's why it's always funny. Like, we always laugh about the Kid Glove, like the weird, like, I don't know. I'm not sure about this. This company's been around forever. Like, they're gonna pass up Nitro soon. It's like, calm down.
They're gonna catch and pass Nitro.
Yeah, of course. Like, they'll get to Hardcore TV too. They'll get there.
This isn't some little 83-week operation.
No,
This
I mean,
is
we're
a successful wrestling company. This isn't a blip. This isn't an 83-week blip on the radar. This is a successful operation that is built for and has earned long-term sustainability.
I wonder if they passed up Thunder. They had to have passed up Thunder by now, or at least getting pretty close to. I don't know when the final Thunder was. Let me see how many Thunders we had. Thunder 156. 156. They've well passed Thunder. Yeah. Well past Thunder.
Thunder was a little longer than I thought. I thought it was 3 years.
It was 98 to 2001.
Yeah. Well.
There you go. So,
all right.
200th Dynamite. They brought back, I know you no spoilers. I won't spoil it for you. They brought back the chandelier. We got paint.
Oh, the chandelier was back.
The chandelier is back. The tunnels are back. The heel and face tunnels are back. We're doing good. So,
that's nice for a week.
Retro look. Yeah. Bring it back forever. Yeah. Get rid of that video board.
Retro all the way back to 2019.
To the halcyon days of 2019. Yes.
Those are the before times.
Yes.
So kind of is
innocent days. Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things. The pre-COVID feels like it was like 2019 feels like it was equal parts, like not that long ago, and then also like 25 years ago. It's so weird. Like certain parts, I'm like, oh yeah, that wasn't that long ago, and then other times I'm like, oh my god, remember how long ago that was? But we also have some build and matches announced for All In Wembley. Joe, I don't want to spoil it for you, but Adam Cole, well, I'm going to spoil it for you. Adam Cole and MJF is official for All In Wembley. We have a match for All In. Are you ready? Excited about that?
Yes.
There you go. We also, we know that you can purchase it on pay-per-view now. This was earlier in the week, Dave wrote this, but I guess AEW did clarify this today on the show. Dave wrote, sources have confirmed to us that Comcast, while now not advertising it yet, is scheduled to air All In on pay-per-view on 8/27 from Wembley Stadium with a $50 price tag. That would mean it would be on in-demand, and all the cable systems would be expected to be carrying the show as well. So, again, they've yet to announce it, but then they did announce it today on Dynamite. So we're good to go. AEW, All In.
So what deal fell through?
I don't know, because there is no reason to wait this long to bring it up. So,
yeah. So,
I don't know.
We can't say how you can watch it yet because, well,
I'm guessing Max. The most likely is that Max is trying to figure out some sort of streaming shit and said, hey, we're not ready yet, so just do the pay-per-view thing until now, until we're ready.
I gotta tell you, I'm happy I could just press a button on my remote and watch it on pay-per-view.
Fine with me, man. Fine with me. Although Max is pretty good. Of all the streaming apps.
But we don't know. Yeah, but it would be it would be like their first crack at this.
That's
right?
true. That's true. Yeah, we don't know how their live streaming aspect is going to be. Whereas that old $60 on pay-per-view, click 2 buttons and there it is on HD. Yeah. Sounding good, looking good, recording pretty good all the time. So
reliable. Absolutely.
AEW Collision this last Saturday on TNT was watched by 739,000 viewers on average, including a .27 in the 18 to 49 rating. That is the highest 18 to 49 and total viewership since the debut episode on June 17th. So AEW Collision, that is a number, man. If you're doing that on Saturdays, you got to be jumping for joy if you're AEW and if you're Warner. That's a good-ass number.
Yeah, but we knew based, when they cut those promos on Dynamite, the first thing I said, and I said this on tape, was, all right, they're popping a number on Saturday because those promos, particularly MJF's, were incredible. And it was the right program, and it was also the right tone the week before on Dynamite to, I don't think the silliness would have worked that week. That week, you needed MJF to go out there and cut a serious promo on FTR, and he did. And, those promos were great, and the match drew. And really, the whole Collision, the CM Punk Ricky Starks segment drew as well. That's kind of gotten lost in this, is that segment did very well. The main event did very well. And some of the other segments obviously dipped a little, but yeah, that's a really good number. I mean, that's going to be one of the better Collision numbers in the near term.
Yeah,
it's not going. Because they had a huge match and they built it well, and that's what happens when you have a huge match and you build it well. So, great number.
I think it was an awesome show too. I wrote, we're trying to do a little bit more coverage of Collision. So It's always, Saturdays are tough. Saturdays are going to be tough in the summer and the fall maybe open up a little bit. So in terms of like audio coverage on that, on Collision, I don't know. That's TBD. Like, it's something that I'm sure we would love to do and we want to do on our Patreon, but it's not as easy, to do, Saturday nights and, Sunday mornings are always kind of tricky too. We'll figure out something, especially in the fall. I can definitely figure out something, but, I watched that episode and I was compelled to say, hey, I got some stuff that I want to say about this. I can't really sit down and do an audio show. But I'll sit down and write about it a little bit. So I did a written review, not necessarily match by match, segment by segment review, more kind of, hey, here's my thoughts.
That's boring anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to read that shit, and you can go read that in a bunch of other places as well.
All the sites I just buried.
Well, and I was going to say, I'm not going to bury this one. Suit Williams, who obviously is a writer for our site, does that for F4WOnline.com every Saturday night. So if you want a breakdown of everything happening on the show, Suit does a fantastic job of that over at F4WOnline.com. But I'm trying to write it from the standpoint of, okay, you all know what happened on the show, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about what this meant, what it could mean, and all that sort of stuff. And I thought there was a lot of different stuff on that episode of Collision. I mean, I'm all in on Collision. I love the show. I think it's a welcome change for the AEW, just in general. And that's nothing against, like, I'm not as down on some aspects of Dynamite as maybe you are or other people are. I think most of Dynamite is still fine, and most of it is okay. There's one or two segments every week that's just kind of like, oh, Jesus Christ. But, Collision does not have any of that. Collision's got exactly the type of wrestling that I want. It's very basic. It's very simple in that sense. It's promos, it's matches, and that's it. And you're pretty much guaranteed, at least from the standpoint of thus far, you're going to get a good main event. Like that you're going to get a solid as hell main event. It's going to go multiple segments. It's going to last, 20 minutes plus for sure. And yeah, that I look forward to that. It's like, all right, cool. I'm going to get that. And it's like, I'm not saying that you're not getting that on Dynamite, but there's something comforting about a Collision. You kind of know what every episode of Collision is going to be. You're going to start the show off. People are going to cut those promos backstage looking into the camera. You're going to get a match. You're going to get a promo. You're going to get a match. You're going to get a promo. And then you're going to get this big time main event. And that's fine by me, man. You know what I mean? That I like a very simple wrestling show sometimes, and a Collision is definitely doing that. And yeah, it's been a very good show. And in that write-up that I did, I compared it to where Rampage was at this time. And we talked about that, when Collision got announced, is can they resist? Can AEW resist the temptation to just make this another show? And then, now knowing that it's going to be the CM Punk show for all intents and purposes, and it's going to probably be the FTR show for a lot of the time as well, and other guys are going to come and go or whatever, but if it's going to be the Punk show and Punk's going to hang around, that's going to be a show that's going to matter. It's just going to have to matter because he's on that show, because he matters. And no matter what he's doing, he matters. And there's enough guys on the show that do matter. And just overall, like, you can tell from the booking and the way the show is still being thought about and internally discussed and booked or whatever, that this is not Rampage, which is good. Like, and I didn't think it was going to be Rampage, but now we have the body of evidence that, 7 or 8 shows in, this thing is not Rampage. Because 7 or 8 shows into Rampage, we were already starting to see Rampage. It's like you had the Punk episode in episode 2. You had a few episodes here and there. You had a couple episodes, that and then there was that brief Mox period where they had Moxley on Rampage for like 2 weeks straight or 3 weeks straight or whatever. And it was like, okay, Rampage matters again. And then it didn't matter again. And now Rampage is whatever it is. Now, I didn't think Collision was going to be there, but I like that now we can, I think, pretty definitively consider that Collision is not going to be Rampage. Now, in a year, I don't know. If Punk gets hurt, I don't know. Who knows? But at the end of the day, Collision does feel like it is truly not a B show, not a C show, but feels right now like a 1A, 1B show with Dynamite. And Dynamite still obviously being the 1A, it being the flagship show of the promotion, but Collision feeling like a very important 1B show as well. And that it's made it appointment television for me. I'm not missing an episode of Collision. That happened very quickly with Dynamite or Rampage, where it was like episode 4 or 5. I was like, all right, I don't think I need to watch this unless somebody tells me I have to watch it. That's not the case with Collision. Collision's an every week watch for sure.
Yeah, I've done a great job with it. We talked about it last week or whatever week that was. The one thing I'll say is CM Punk. If I were Tony Khan, and I know it's delicate trying to corral CM Punk, but I would pull him aside and I would tell him to cut the shit with the collider stuff. Don't encourage a split of your audience. Don't encourage the tribalism between your own fans. I think that's there's zero upside to that. And I don't understand why, and I guess Punk is real, it's Punk and FTR. Those are the ones doing this shit. And it's like, why are you encouraging division among your fans? It should be all AEW. It's unfortunate that all of these adults can't figure out a way to get along and we have to sequester them away from each other. That's pathetic to begin with. But, why encourage the fans and why encourage this divide? Punk really needs to get off Instagram posting about colliders.
No, just stop right there. Wait, hold on. Start your sentence with Punk just needs to get off Instagram is probably the way to go.
It's like, I understand Punk wants to work with these guys. They don't want to work with you, man. And I wish they did want to work with you. I think we all do. But I understand why they wouldn't want to work with you. And you just have to accept that. And this passive-aggressive shit and dividing the audience and encouraging the divide of the audience is something where if it was my company, I would nip that in the bud and put a stop to that. I see no benefit.
Right. Even if you had a long-term, even if you said in a year's time, we are doing this and everybody knows it and everybody's sort of on the page of knowing that we're going to do this, it's still probably not a good idea to go that far with the story to have people, the crowd divided in terms of what show versus show A versus show B or whatever. Like even if like the long-term plan is to have an Elite versus Punk and FTR match or whatever, or feud or whatever, I still think that that's probably not the direction I would go, is having, a member of my roster try to say that my show is different than that show, or it's just a little strange.
Difference, fine, but it's like this whole thing, like, oh, we have our fans and they are Collider. Like,
yeah. It's dork.
It's already a situation where this fan divide was going to exist, but why encourage it to exist? I just do not see the upside. So that's something I would put a stop to. But yeah, Collision's a great show. I think it's, for all the reasons we talked about last week, it's different than Dynamite, and that's a good thing. It's different in good ways. And I really like both shows, and I'm glad that they both exist.
So that's Collision. Of course, we'll keep our coverage going on flagshippatreon.com. Again, I can't guarantee what it's going to be moving forward, but written stuff, audio stuff, we'll cover it. We'll cover it as much as we can. It's probably never going to be a weekly thing that we do, and it might, who knows, it might be, but yeah, it's hard to say for sure. So people saying, hey, you guys got to cover Collision, why don't you cover Collision? Like, we watch Collision, we know, but here's the thing. I've said nothing when people have asked me, because if I'm going to do a Collision review of some type, I'm not committing to it until I know I could do it every week. Right, exactly.
Without fail. And
like this week, I can't. So if I did an audio show last week and said, all right, welcome to the Collision weekly reviews or whatever, and then this week I can't do it. So it's like, well, that sucks. It's not what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I'm not, and it's like, because if you say you're going to do something and you want people to listen to it, you have to do it. And especially, and forget asking people to pay you to do something. I mean, leave that part of it even out of it. If I say I'm going to do something, if I say I'm going to do this show every week, I'm going to do this fucking show every week. If I say I'm going to cover Dynamite every week, I'm going to cover Dynamite every week on that review. I'm not going to pop in and out and do Collision, at my convenience or when I can squeeze it in. No, if I'm going to do it, if I'm going to start doing it, it's because I know I can do it every single week without fail for fucking who knows how long. So I don't feel like doing it anymore. Or it's not something that I feel like people want or need anymore. And right now I just can't. So maybe that will change next week. Maybe that will change next month. Maybe that, I don't know. But I've thought about it, but I just, I'm not, I have to know I can do it every single week into perpetuity if I'm going to commit to it. Right. So you'll get stuff, for now, but yeah, we can't guarantee every single week of that. But Thursday Dynamite reviews, you can guarantee. Flagshippatreon.com/voices of wrestling. And 200 Dynamite just went off the air, so that will be tomorrow on the Thursday Dynamite reviews. I think you're going to like the show, Joe. I think you'll enjoy old Dynamite 200. But that is a discussion
for another day. Let's talk about. Let's get into the world of WWE. Or do you want to do? Do you want to do G1? Maybe need a break. Maybe
I want to do WWE last.
Let's put them last.
I can't stomach it,
including the Vince McMahon stuff. We will do that last. So you didn't have to watch NXT. For the record, I said I would watch NXT. You did not have to, and then you did.
I don't know. I have to really sit down and think about what I want to do moving forward with WWE, because it makes me unhappy. I hate it so much that I don't know if it's productive to even come on here and talk about it. I hate it. I don't dislike it. I think the entire company is fucking trash. I can't stand anything about it. NXT is the worst fucking thing I've ever seen in pro wrestling. I've said that many times.
Was not good at all.
And believe me, this Great American Bash did not change my mind. It was awful. I hate the way it's presented and everything. I can't anymore. And I don't want to be that guy, I guess. I don't know. We'll get there when we get there.
We'll get there when we get there. Yeah.
Please do New Japan instead.
Yes,
please.
Absolutely. I sensed your I could sense you tensing up as I mentioned WWE. So let's move on to New Japan Pro Wrestling G1 Climax scenarios. We are down to the final stretch. We have August 5th and August 6th in Osaka, August 8th, August 9th, August 10th, August 12th, and then finally August 13th in Sumo Hall, with the quarterfinals being August 10th, semifinals being August 12th, and August 13th being the finals of the G1 Climax. So we're only got a couple more shows there, a few more. The full-on block shows, right? The 3-hour 8-match things, those are done now, right? We're going to single block shows moving forward.
The 8-match round robin shows are over. Those are done. There is one round robin match left for each wrestler at this point, and those, what I call the block finals, are their own individual shows. Saturday and Sunday in Osaka, the old Bodymaker #1, is the A block and the B block respectively, and the final 4 matches of each block. The final 4 matches of the A block are Saturday. The final 4 matches of the B block is Sunday. All right, I have to address this because I'm fucking pissed off. Someone in the chat is saying WWE is bad, but so is NWA, and you watch that. Don't tell me what to watch. This is my show.
Yeah, we're in a jukebox. You don't get to pay and then say what we do.
Hit the bricks then. I will watch. And let me tell you something. NWA does not infuriate me the way WWE does. It doesn't. It just doesn't. And I will keep watching that. And I will review it You know what? Try me. I'll review that. I'll review Power every week here.
Hold on now.
Try me.
Hold on.
Try me.
I did not agree to this.
Try me. I don't want to hear it because I review an NWA pay-per-view 4 times a year in the last 15 minutes of the show. Give me a break.
Also, we have to, because if we don't, nobody will.
Yeah, who else is reviewing NWA? Okay? Well, you think we're opening with it? I do it in the last 15 minutes of the show and I'm half asleep. All right, you can live with it. And, by the way, this is my show.
Right,
I'm going to review what I want to review.
Exactly.
That's the bottom line. That annoyed me. A block Saturday.
We're not doing the Power thing, are we? Because I do not want to do that.
Fucking try me, Rich.
I know. I do not want to try you.
Fucking try me.
I do not want to do weekly Power reviews, please.
B block Sunday in Osaka. Final 4 B block matches. The advancement scenarios are actually quite simple.
Uh-oh. Now, do you mean that in earnestly, or like, oh, it's really quite simple, and then you're going to spend 25 minutes telling me about the scenario?
No, they are quite simple.
Okay.
A block. Listen, I promise you they're simple.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Let's start with B block, the simplest of all.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Great-O-Khan, Kenta, and Yoshihashi are double red X'd. They are out.
Oh, man.
At 6 points, we have Taichi, Tangaloa, and El Phantasmo. Rich, Taichi and Tangaloa are eliminated.
No.
Some people might think they're alive, but they're not. They have no scenario to advance. So
no, and there's no, even with a decision match, even with any, there's no way they get through.
They are mathematically eliminated. They're out. Okada has locked up a spot in the playoff. He's in first place with 10 points. He has not, however, locked up the number 1 seed coming out of the B block. I'll get to that in a second. Will Ospreay is alive with 8 points. El Phantasmo is alive with 6 points. Phantasmo wrestles Will Ospreay. And it is very simple for Will. If he wins, he locks up a quarterfinal berth. If he loses, he's out. Didn't I tell you this was simple?
Yep.
Will Ospreay wins, he moves on. If he loses, he's out.
That's an interesting result there. I don't know, because we talked about that originally when we looked at those guys being booked, that, Will, this seems like a really good opportunity for Will to put Phantasmo over and Phantasmo to get that big spot or whatever. Maybe we're working ourselves into a shoot there, but that, I don't know. That seems...
No, sir. Because if ELP defeats Will Ospreay, he has the head-to-head win, and they have the same amount of points, and he advances.
That's what I'm saying. Do you think they get crazy?
Taichi and Tangaloa are out regardless.
Do they get crazy with El Phantasmo here? Moving forward?
We'll see. Now, the only other scenario in play is the number 1 seed. If Will Ospreay defeats El Phantasmo, Okada and Ospreay advance. Will can then get the number 1 seed if Okada loses to Tangaloa. That's it. Simple.
That wasn't
so
bad.
Okada needs to win to lock up the 1 seed. An Okada win or a Will Ospreay loss clinches number 1 seed for Okada. And the Will Ospreay ELP thing is straightforward. That's it for your B block. Didn't I tell you this was easy?
It's not bad. Yeah. I've got my head. I don't know. I got some headcanon here about El Phantasmo over Ospreay. I don't know why. Because we talked about last week, if you want to move somebody, like somebody's got to be non-chalk that goes forward. I guess we'll talk about him throughout that. But I mean, the easy answer is Okada and Ospreay move forward. And Ospreay just beats Phantasmo. But I don't know. That could be an interesting spot for Phantasmo too, to beat him and move forward. But we'll see.
Yeah. So A block. You ready for the A block?
Yeah.
Little more complicated, but I still think easy to understand. Sonata has clinched a playoff berth and has also clinched the number 1 seed, so we don't worry about him. Sonata is your number 1 seed out of the A block. Sonata can decide on Saturday to simply not show up to wrestle Chase Owens. He could take the night off. He can go bang his girlfriend. He can go have a nice dinner. He can show up and then just, when the bell rings, take a powder like Honky Tonk Man and get counted out. Do whatever he wants. He's your number 1 seed out of the A block. Simple enough, Craich?
Yeah.
We have 3 men with 6 points. Hikuleo, Shota Umino, and Keito Kiyomiya. We'll get to them in a second. Gabe Kidd and Yota Tsuji have 5 points. They're both out.
Damn.
There are some people that will tell you they can get to 7. They're alive. They are not. There is no scenario in which Gabe Kidd or Yota Tsuji can advance. You're just going to have to trust me on that. They're out.
Well, because everybody else would have to be no contest, right? Like you have to have Hikuleo.
Okay, let me address that.
Yeah.
No contests don't exist until I see New Japan do one.
Right. When they do one, okay.
If someone can point to me the last time New Japan did a no contest in a G1 match, or New Japan did a match in a G1 where both competitors left the match with 0 points, that's when I'll start factoring no contest into these things. Until then, I don't want to hear about your no contest because there's no evidence that they exist. I don't know if there was a double count out or double DQ, I don't know the precedent for that. They might give them both 1 point like it's a draw. And neither does anybody else, by the way. Nobody knows. So I don't worry about no contests until I see them do one. So I'm glad you brought that up. Ren Narita and Chase Owens also have 4 points, and they're also both out. It's funny, all the hand-wringing over Chase Owens, he's in last place, and he's going to lose the Sonata, and he's going to finish in last place. Right. And everybody was, Chase Owens, oh my God. What a travesty. He's beaten. He's in last place. So it also ran. Anyway.
And Kaito Kiyomiya and Gabe Kidd did they, I forget, what were the points? How'd that go? The point differentials between those guys when they did that DQ? Didn't they did one this year, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What are the points? What did they do the points breakdown for this one? I don't know.
What?
Whatever. The gay kid Kaito Kiyomiya. Well, that was a double count.
Double count out, draw.
Right.
Yeah, they called it a draw. All right. So, here's the advancement scenarios for the 3 guys with 6 points. Hikuleo is the simplest. If he wins, he is the number 2 seed. It's as simple as that. If Hikuleo defeats Shota Umino, he is your number 2 seed. Nothing else that happens all night matters. How about that, Rich, for simplicity?
That is very simple. Okay.
Very simple. Shota Umino.
I was gonna say, but what if Shota wins?
He needs to win. And then he needs Kaito Kiyomiya to lose. And then he is a clear advance with 8 points. And Kaito and Hikuleo will have 6, and he will move on. But there is a second scenario for Shota Umino.
Dun, dun, dun. All right, what do you got?
If he wins and Kaito Kiyomiya wins, we've got an unbreakable tie.
Uh-oh.
We've got an unbreakable tie because they had a draw against one another.
Who's Kiyomiya? I forget if you said. Who's Kiyomiya facing on his final day?
Kaito Kiyomiya is facing Ren Narita.
Okay. All right.
So that's the other scenario in play. Now, in 2009, when they had an unbreakable tie, they did a coin flip. Okay, it was Togi Makabe, and I can't remember the other guy. Someone in the chat will have it. But me and Chris Sampson talked about this. I don't think they're doing a coin flip, Rich. I think they would do a decision match. And oh, how convenient. There's another show the next night in the same building that you can put a potential Shota Umino, Kaito Kiyomiya decision match. I think that's what they're going to do. What do you think?
I think so. Yeah, that's a good way to do it because Kiyomiya can easily beat Narita. I think if you're Noah, I would hope. Jesus Christ, I would hope if you were Noah that you at least want, if Kiyomiya is not going to get through to the end of the block and be the semifinals of the block, maybe you don't want to go that far with him. And I get that. If you're New Japan Pro Wrestling, you might not want that. But if they don't at least have him in a decision match, you know what I mean? That I would have at least negotiated that if I was Pro Wrestling Noah, and I hope that they did. That makes sense to me. That is that's a good match. That's a match you can draw with. That's a match that you can use in the future. I would like that. I think that's probably the best way to go. With that said, now they're obviously going to do the opposite, and they're going to make us look like idiots. But that just seems like it works, right?
So the 2009, it was Togi Makabe and Tanahashi tied for first, and they had a draw in their match, and they did a coin flip. That was the opponent. So, I don't think they're doing a coin flip. I think it makes a lot of sense. Here's the thing. I don't think Hikuleo is going to lose. I don't think they're going to put Hikuleo through for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's Hikuleo. Number 2, why they're going to bring Kaito Kiyomiya into this thing and he's not even going to advance.
He just finishes, in the middle of the pack in the A block. Yeah, there's no way. And like I said, I don't know if like Noah was like, no, he's got to, win his block and he's got to go to the finals, all that sort of stuff. Like, I doubt they asked for that, but I think they probably at least said, hey, can we get, what's the best you can do for us? What's the best we can do here? And I think an offer match, or a decision match, I should say, is probably the best way. Even if he loses that decision match, that's still a big time spot. And it would be remembered as, hey, he tied, got there, almost got to the semifinals or whatever, the quarterfinals or whatever, and then that'd be fine with me too. If I was Noah and if I was Kiyomiya, that's not bad booking.
Yeah, so I think they're going to do that. I think you're going to end up with Shota beating Hikuleo. I think Kaito Kiyomiya is going to beat Ren Narita, and then we're going to have this tie. And I think the decision match is on the table. I think that's what fans would want to see, or they're just going to be like, fuck Pro Wrestling Noah. Ren Narita
Which is possible.
Ren Narita beats Kaito Kiyomiya, and then the winner of Hikuleo Shota Umino goes through. And here's the thing. I want to say this. If that happens, and Kaito Kiyomiya loses to Ren Narita, or Kaito Kiyomiya doesn't advance, okay, I don't want to hear a word from the Deep Puro nerds or the Noah fans.
Oh, it's over. Yeah, it's over.
About how no. That's not where I'm going. About how New Japan booked him so poorly and he didn't even get out of his block, and this is a disgrace. The heat should not be on New Japan in that scenario. The heat should be on Pro Wrestling Noah, because if New Japan comes to them and says, "Yeah, we'll put this guy in the tournament," but here's the thing: he's finishing in 4th place in his block,
and they said, sure, no problem.
That's on Noah to say, "Well, no, we don't want this guy in it." Then you're not going to embarrass him like that. You have to treat him with some dignity and respect, or the deal's off. That's on Noah. That's not New Japan's problem. That is not New Japan's problem. Blame his home promotion if that plays out that way. And here's the thing. His home promotion doesn't give a fuck about him anyway. They book him worse than this. All right, he won the N1 last year. Nevertheless, Rich.
Oh, yeah, and he's like, lengthwise one of the longest reigning, GHC heavyweight champions. But it's like, yeah.
No, but you get the idea.
In between all that. Well, what's interesting is, like, from New Japan's standpoint, I guess Noah's standpoint too, thinking about, the logistics of this, you have Kiyomiya and Okada right there if you want to have it happen, right?
Yes.
You kind of probably should do that match, but
you can do, at some point once we get to the tournament portion, you could absolutely, whether it's the final, the semifinal, you can get to Okada versus Kiyomiya, which isn't that the whole point of bringing Kiyomiya to
I would think
tournament?
so. Yeah, and that's kind of what I was saying is, like, I like the idea of doing a decision match, and if that's the best you can do for Kiyomiya, that's the best you can do for Kiyomiya, but you have Okada and Kiyomiya right there. Like, that's the match to do. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't do that. I don't see any reason why Noah wouldn't be okay with that. I don't see any reason why New Japan wouldn't be okay with that. Like, to me, that has to be the play. Like, that has to be the play. And it's I don't know. Like, it seems like there was probably an easier way to get to that path, but I think if you want to have that decision match and you want it to be a big moment where, it's the Noah guy versus one of the New Japan, new Three Musketeers, and it's this guy goes through and this guy loses, like, that's a cool moment. You could do that, but Jesus Christ, like, I think you got to do Okada and Kiyomiya, but then I know that's like, is Kiyomiya going to the final? That seems like too much for me. So I don't know. It's strange. Like, I'm fascinated how this next week plays out for Kiyomiya and how it's
even
booked.
If they do the decision match, even if he loses, they could say, all right, well, he didn't get knocked out right away. He got to a playoff.
Right. And I'm thinking that's fine, but you do lose out on the Okada Kiyomiya match that everybody was kind of thinking that you were going to get, which, I mean, you could do that match anytime you want.
Here's the thing. He's advancing. This is a bold prediction since we don't know what they're really going to do. They might just flip the fucking coin for all I know. He might lose for all I know. I think he's winning, Shota's winning, and he's beating Shota. And New Japan has already protected Shota because he drew with him once.
Right. Now, when Kiyomiya does that, though, I don't think, wouldn't he have to go to the finals to face Okada? Or I guess Okada would have to finish first in his block, right?
Well, yeah, we don't know if Okada's going to finish first or second in his block.
That's true. If Will just beats Phantasmo, then
Okada's
got the tiebreaker. Yeah, there you go. So maybe that's okay. Fuck Del Phantasmo. We're done with that.
This is why I'm saying, like,
that dream's over. Will beats El Phantasmo and Okada. Who's Okada got in the last night?
Tangaloa. Now Tangaloa just beat Will Ospreay.
He's had some big upsets, Tangaloa, and it doesn't affect the scoring at all.
No, Tangaloa's out regardless.
Right. So okay, maybe that's your play then, is have him get some 2 big scalps here, move Ospreay to the top of the block, Okada second place, then you get the Kiyomiya Okada in the semifinal, and then Okada can beat him, obviously, and that's enough to placate everybody. Probably.
Or maybe it's the final. Why would?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not impossible. That would be very much played. That New Japan books him better than Noah does.
Well, yeah, no. You know what the ideal scenario is? The ideal scenario is an Okada Kaito Kiyomiya final, and honestly, for the story, it makes more sense for Kaito Kiyomiya to win.
Yeah, seriously.
And then you have Kaito Kiyomiya headline the Tokyo Dome. And then, you know why that's ideal? Because then New Japan objectively books him better than Noah does.
And then we will be right. The most important metric of all, we will be right about our arguments with 17-year-old nerds on Twitter.
Right. In that New Japan did more to get the guy over in 3 weeks than Noah did in 7 years.
So you're right. The most important thing is we would be right in that scenario. So, okay, I like it.
Nothing is more important than us being right. So
for our dumb feud.
Right. That's right. So That's your A block and your B block. Didn't I tell you this was easy?
Yeah, not bad.
All right. You ready for the B block? I mean, the C and D blocks?
Yes.
So that will be, you take Monday off, you come back Tuesday in Kanagawa at the Yokohama Budokan for the C block. And then Wednesday, next night, Shizuoka in the Act City Hamamatsu for the D block. What do you want first, C block or D block?
Let's go C. Let's go in order.
You want to go C?
Yeah.
C is very easy as well. They're all easy. For Finley, this is very simple. It's well, I'll give you the standings. Finley, Evil, and Kingston have 8. Tama Tonga and Shingo have 7. Mikey Nichols, Hanare, and Ishii are out. So we don't worry about Mikey Nichols, Hanare, or Big Tom Ish. So for Finley, actually, I'll make this very easy for you. For Evil or Finley, Finley faces Kingston, Evil faces Shingo. They win and they're in. Seeding to be determined, but they win and they're in. Kingston actually has multiple paths here that those guys don't, because Kingston is in with a win over Finley or a draw. Kingston doesn't even have to win. He can draw. Unless Shingo and Evil also have a draw.
Draws aplenty.
You got all that?
I got it. So if there's so if both of them draw, what happens then? What are we doing?
Okay. If Kingston can advance with a draw,
right? Unless
Shingo and Evil also draw.
Unless those guys draw too. Yeah.
Finley advances with a win. Finley can also advance with a draw, but only if Shingo and Evil do draw. So that's your answer.
Oh, so if they both draw, then Finley's got it.
Then Finley's in. Got it?
Yep.
All right. So Evil advances with a win. He has the simplest scenario of all. Shingo has a pretty simple scenario as well. He advances with a win and a Tama Tonga loss. That's it. If Shingo wins and Tama Tonga loses, it doesn't matter what Finley and Kingston do against one another. Got it, Rich?
Got it, yeah.
Tama Tonga is alive, but here's what's interesting. He has no clear advancement scenario. Here's what I mean.
So he's not dead, but there's no scenario that lets him.
No.
Okay.
He has no free and clear advancement. Listen. This is Tama Tonga's only hope. He has to win combined with a Shingo loss to Evil. And then what that gets Tama Tonga is a play-in scenario with Shingo.
Okay.
Similar to Shota and Kaito.
Yeah, they're not doing that with Tama. I could buy it with Kaito and Kiyomiya and Shota Umino. I'm not buying the Tama Tonga Shingo Takagi playoff, but I don't know.
I can't X him out though. He's not mathematically eliminated.
He's not done. That would be a bold thing for them to do in the C block, but who knows? You're right. It's not impossible. It's not an X. You can't throw the X on there yet.
He's not mathematically eliminated. I can't X him out. Okay, because there's a that's actually, he doesn't even need a million different outcomes. He just needs a win and a Shingo loss, and then he has to beat Shingo head-to-head.
Then the playoff, yeah.
Because remember, Tama Tonga and Shingo had a draw, so there's no. So they'd be tied for that second seed. Evil would advance. Okay. And, so that's what he would need for that. Now, listen, there is a possibility for 3 and 4-way ties, but I'm going to make them simple for you. Eddie Kingston wins them all. So if you're going to ask me, oh, well, what about if this draws and
this guy does this and that guy does that? It's all Eddie.
If there's any 3 or 4-way ties, I worked every one of them out, and Eddie Kingston wins all of them. That's why Kingston advances with a win or a draw, unless Shingo and Evil also draw. Got all that?
Yes, sort of.
Don't ask me how. Just accept my information because it's all right.
Yes.
Trust me when I say it's all right. Okay. You ready for D block?
Yeah, let's do D block. Well, C block, real quick. David Finlay for sure, I think, is going through. That makes all the sense in the world. I don't know about that second guy. That could be your wild card right there. Where Kingston, maybe, if you want an AEW connection, maybe they want him to at least to get to the semifinals or whatever. Evil isn't impossible. You cannot rule out Evil. Tama Tonga, like you said, that scenario seems kind of wild. I don't know if I'm predicting that one. I don't know. I think Finley is a lock for me. I don't know about that second guy. If you had to predict, who do you think moves through out of those other guys? I think Kingston maybe, right?
It could easily be Kingston.
I think Kingston works. I think that's probably the best scenario there.
Yeah. You ready for D block?
Let's do D block. This one looks like it's going to be trouble. Is it not?
It's not trouble at all.
Okay.
It's actually very simple. Cobb, Naito, and Zack Sabre Jr. each have 8 points. Tanahashi and Goto have 6. They're all alive. Everyone else is out. That would be Coughlin, Yano, and Haste with 4 points each. They're done. Here are the scenarios for each man. If Cobb wins, he's in. He wins the block. If Naito wins, he's in, and he advances. Cobb is facing Haste. Naito is facing Tanahashi. So it's very simple for Cobb and Naito. They win, and they move on. Zack Sabre Jr., who also has 8 points. The problem with Zack is he lost to Cobb and Naito. So he needs to win, and then he needs Cobb or Naito to lose or draw. Got it?
Yes.
Pretty simple for him. He needs a win, and one of those two guys who beat him to lose or draw. Tanahashi, he has 6 points. He needs to win, combined with a Jeff Cobb win, combined with a Goto win over Zack Sabre Jr.
Okay. That's not impossible. Who's Cobb got? Sorry, I forget if you mentioned that.
Cobb has Haste.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
If you want to know why, it's because he needs that exact combination for tiebreaker purposes in order to win a tiebreaker. I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of it. You're just going to have to trust me. A Tanahashi win with a Jeff Cobb win and a Hiroki Goto win, and Tanahashi is your 2 seed and Jeff Cobb is your 1 seed. Got it?
Got it. Yeah.
And now Goto. He is in the same boat as Tanahashi
the G in G1 stands for Goto. Let's do it.
Yeah, he needs a specific combination of outcomes.
Peeking through the curtain.
To have a favorable tiebreaker that he can win. And here are those outcomes. He needs to win.
Okay.
Tetsuya Naito needs to beat Tanahashi.
Okay.
And Jeff Cobb needs to lose to Shane Haste. And Hiroki Goto will be your 2 seed.
I don't love the odds for my man Goto there. That seems tough. I feel like Cobb's probably beating Shane Haste. So I think Cobb is advancing. I think that one's going to be nice and simple. That next guy, man, I don't know. The easiest scenario is Naito beats Tanahashi and he moves forward, right? What is Sabre? Sorry, what was Sabre's path? He has to beat.
He needs a win over Goto, and then Cobb or Naito have to lose or draw.
Wait, so Sabre's facing Goto or Goto's facing? Oh,
Sabre's facing Goto.
Sabre's facing Goto. Okay.
Sabre needs a win, and he needs Cobb or Naito to lose.
I don't think both those guys are losing. I think Sabre's. I don't think he's going through. I think it's just going to be Cobb and Naito. I think that's the easiest plan, but I think that's probably the plan that's going to be.
Now, someone out there is probably saying, what if there's a 5-way tie? And let me tell you something. If Shane Haste beats Cobb, and Tanahashi beats Naito, and Goto beats Zack Sabre Jr., we have 5 men with 8 points, Rich.
Mm-hmm.
I have worked that out. I can tell you exactly what would happen in that situation.
Please do. I'm excited.
Jeff Cobb, Tetsuya Naito, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Hiroki Goto would all be 2-2 against the other 4 men. Zack Sabre Jr. would be 1-3. So the bottom line here is there's not going to be a 5-way tie because they're not going to have a 4-man mini tournament the next night.
Sabre hit the bricks. Well, a 4-man mini tournament or just a fatal 4-way. Fatal 4-way, Joe.
Match. Yeah.
So they're gonna have you're gonna have your Tama Tonga Shingo Takagi playoff, your fatal 4-way between Cobb, Naito, Tanahashi, and Goto, and then your Shota Umino Kaito Kiyomiya playoff as well. So yeah, that's like the most ridiculous, right? Is like that's I think that's as ridiculous as you can get. Yeah, none of that's gonna happen.
Bottom line is they're not.
One of those 3 is gonna happen. And it's probably gonna be Kiyomiya and Shota, and those other things are probably not happening. Oh, they're deadlock even. Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, that's not good. It's Cobb and Naito, right?
It is. Well, what do you think?
I think it's Cobb and Naito. It's the least sexy of them because it's just like they win and then they move on. But that seems like the clearest way to do it.
Yeah. Well,
Tanahashi, I don't know. I don't know if I need him. I don't know if I need Jeff Cobb losing to Shane Hayes, but I don't know. Stranger things have happened, so I will see. So that is the D block. That is the scenarios there. Nice job. Nicely done.
easy. I think they're very easy.
I'm sure people will say you're wrong, but I think you've spent your time, right? You've sat down, plotted this out.
That's right.
You've done. Yes. You've been in this game for a long time too.
Long time. G1 math. I can get into the nuts and bolts of some of these and explain to you why people are eliminated that are already. I mean, I get into all the tie scenarios that I have, but I gave everyone. See, you know how I did it? NFL style. They don't give you every single scenario of advancement. They tell you the clearest scenario of advancement for each team. This team needs to win, and this team needs to lose, and this team's in. That's what I gave you for every guy that's alive. What they need to do to move on in the cleanest way. And I really don't think a lot of these are that complicated. The big question is, are they going to do a decision match in that A block? Maybe they'll just flip the fucking coin and send Kato home because he called heads.
Right. Sorry, pal. It was tails.
And he goes,
yeah, nuts.
Darn.
Peanuts. All right. Well, thank you. Thanks everybody for having me. And he's wearing his robe or whatever. He comes in the ring and he's got his robe on. They flip the coin. Nuts. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Bye.
Yeah.
You win some, you lose some. You live by the coin, you die by the coin. All right. Well, see you. I got to go. That would stink. Yeah, don't do that. I think they should have a match, but we'll see what ends up happening. So there you go. That is the G1 Climax scenarios. Again, final stretch here. Daily G1 audio reviews of every single show on our $5 tier at flagshippatreon.com, patreon.com/voices of wrestling, and voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon. Just a few more left to go. I know the finals you usually don't do because you and I do that on this show. So I think you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shows left to go on the Daily G1 audio, right? And then we'll do the final, obviously, on this show.
Yes.
If that works out for August 13th. When is that? Yeah, it works out perfectly. Yep, next Sunday. Perfect. So we will do that. Yeah, we'll do the final review on the flagship, but you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more shows on the Daily G1 audio, flagshippatreon.com.
All right, update. I am being told I misspoke.
Uh-oh. You told me to trust you.
Tama Tonga. Well, I'm going to read this right off my notes here. Tama Tonga needs to win, and Shingo also needs to win to force the Tama Tonga Shingo play-in. I am told I said Shingo needs to lose. So maybe I misspoke, maybe I didn't. Here's what my notes say. My notes say that Tama Tonga must win, and Shingo must win, and then those two men will have 9. Okay? Evil will have 8 because he will have lost to Shingo. And then the winner of Finley Kingston will be the 1 seed at 10. And the loser of Finley Kingston will be out because they will have 8, and Tama and Shingo will have 9. And then Tama and Shingo would have to have the plan. Got it?
Yes.
I'm only repeating all that and going into detail because in the chat, I looked at the chat, and Sean Cedor says I misspoke and said that Shingo needed to lose to Evil. If I said that, that's wrong. Shingo needs to beat Evil. That would knock Evil out. That would put Tama and Shingo at 9. That would put the loser of Finley Kingston at 8. And it would advance the winner of Finley Kingston. And then the winner of the Tama Shingo decision match would be the 2 seed. So if I misspoke, if Sean is correct, there is the official correction.
There you go. All right.
There you go.
Anything else? Any other corrections? I think that was it. I think that's all we heard from the. We'll get some people that I'm sure will.
Well, no one's disputing anything else. Look, I know everything I said was right because I have gone over this with a fine-tooth comb. And but if I misspoke, that is the. And if I didn't misspeak, you got all of that twice now. So there you go.
So congratulations. There you go. G1 Climax scenarios. There you go. Daily G1 Audio, flagship patreon.com, patreon.com/voices of wrestling, and voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon. All right, let's go to the world of Mexico with this report from Lucha Blog and Cubs fan that Bandido and very likely to follow Gravity and several other people are done with the Big Lucha promotion. So a hastily put together losing team must disband match happened last week in Big Lucha. Bandido lost that match, and that was designed to write him out of the promotion. Now, as Cubs fan and Lucha Blog points out, people long assumed that Big Lucha was Bandido's promotion, that Bandido was the leader of, or the money behind it, or whatever he was behind Big Lucha. That is not the case. As Cubs fans points out, he owned a share of the gym that helped train the people in Big Lucha, not the majority of the gym, though, and had no part in the promotion itself. He wasn't the booker. He wasn't the head trainer. He had nothing else to do with it. He was just a performer and owned a small share of the gym in which they train people as well. So, per Cubs fan, Bandido and Lucha Blog, the actual Lucha, the Big Lucha owner, had a falling out over the direction of the promotion. Bandido attempted a coup to get others to leave with him and start a new promotion, but that failed, and now he is done, and he is out of Big Lucha, and presumably Gravity, his brother, to follow very soon after.
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought that this promotion belongs to Bandido. I know I thought that.
Well, yeah, and Cubs fan even says that kind of was by design. Like, this owner that was in charge of it didn't really... his name is still not really public. I think he's just kind of this money guy that's behind it, and he wanted everyone to think that this was Bandido's promotion, Big Lucha, for whatever reason. I mean, it's probably... I mean, you could probably sell more tickets if it's like, hey, Bandido, he's the guy that runs this thing or whatever, not me. But yeah, he was not the money behind the promotion. He was not the guy behind the promotion. He wasn't the booker. He wasn't the trainer. He wasn't any of that. And I long thought that he was as well. So I was wrong about that too. And it seems per Lucha Blog Cubs fan, like everybody kind of thought this. You know, it wasn't very well known that he wasn't in charge of this.
And it wasn't his gym either. And there were some tea leaves. They changed the name of the gym from Bandido's gym to Big Lucha Gym or something like that a few weeks back, which kind of was a tip-off that something might have been coming here. But, apparently there's a lot of heat that Gravity got all those AEW bookings. So what they did an impromptu elimination match with all of the units where the losing unit it was basically loser leave town. And the Golden Guns, which is Bandido's unit, ended up losing the match, and that's how they wrote the guys out of the company. The problem is that was the top babyface unit in the company and had like all the big stars: Bandido, Commander, Gravity, Galeno Del Mal, who had the breakout at WrestleMania weekend, Rey Horus, and some other local guys were part of Golden Guns. And, that's a lot of talent to be gone, if all those guys are gone from the promotion. And then, I think Cubs even said that there's a chance that some other stragglers might back Bandido and leave the promotion too. So I don't know what that really leaves them with. Obviously, Flamita is still there. And
he did you see he left AAA? It said, or something's going on with Flamita. Let me see what the exact. It was coming up earlier today. Let me figure out what the news was with him. But something's going on. He exited AAA. He's done with AAA. Yeah. So I don't know what that means for him. But everybody comes and goes from AAA at some point in their careers, and then they're back not long after. So who knows?
They still have Jack Evans, and his unit is still there too. That was the primary feud that Golden Guns were in for a while there. It was with Jack Evans. The Jack Evans feud with Gravity is what put Gravity on the map for me. That was my first exposure, because I am a casual Big Lucha viewer, and that feud from earlier this year, and I think it may have started the end of last year, was Jack Evans had a bunch of matches with Gravity, and I forget the name of his is it Evans Goon, or what the fuck is it called? I don't know what it's called. But the problem now is all the stables that are left behind are heel stables. That's another problem the promotion has. They're either going to have to do a bunch of babyface turns or something, or come up with something, because now the problem is their top babyface unit, and all the top babyfaces were in Golden Guns, and they're the ones who lost the match, and they're the ones that are out. So That's not good from that standpoint. But yeah, it's a big hit for the promotion. But you hope that now I don't even know that Gravity has an AEW deal or not. I mean, I know he worked some shots, but he never got the graphic. I thought he looked well enough in the matches that he worked for them. So if it were me, there would be some interest there. But Loco Evans, that's what his group is called. The Jack Evans group. That's Jack Evans and a bunch of local guys, bunch of local heels in that group. In fact, I'm pulling it up on Cage Match, and no one else in the stable even has a Cage Match profile.
Oh boy,
to tell you how local they are.
yeah.
But it's a Mexican indie. I mean, they're going to use guys that aren't.
It's not as big.
profile.
Yeah, the name says Big Lucha, but they ain't that big. So they're
all the most of the stars were in Golden Guns, and that's kind of what the problem is here. But to me, it was shocking because I'm one of those people who thought it was Bandido's promotion. So the fact that he's getting squeezed out, and the fact that he tried to round up the boys,
right? All right, everyone's with me, right? And they're like, not today.
And then he didn't have a money backer either. Like, it's just, well, where are we going? Like obviously this promotion had a money backer that wasn't Bandido. Like, you can't just start something up without a new money backer. So that's a problem too. But as far as where all these guys fall or land in the landscape, in terms of CMLL, AAA, that's probably better for someone else to speculate on than us. Just keep an eye on Lucha Blog, I guess, for that. But
probably a good time to bring him back to AEW, right? Been a while.
Who?
Bandido.
Oh yeah, I know. When's the last time he even worked
June.
at AEW?
I looked it up. I looked up earlier today. June. He had a rampage back-to-back rampages in June was the last time he worked.
But we know he has a contract.
Right.
That's the thing. Like, we don't know that Gravity has any kind of deal with AEW. We don't know if it was just, we know he worked a few ROH shots, and we know he was in for that weekend of the pay-per-view and then the TV. But we don't know if it was, all right, well, thanks for coming, or, you know what I mean? Like, that guy is in flux right now. And,
well, I know. So I know that Bandido has the injury, but I guess this was. I don't know. I don't know if he's ready from that yet. I forgot about the injury for him. He broke his wrist.
No,
or
I know.
like that,
but the point is, we know he has a contract.
Right.
Regardless of when or whether he wrestled or not, we know that he's okay because he has a contract. Gravity, not so much. We don't know. Now we would think that. I don't know. Why wouldn't you just take him? I mean, unless you're up against it with your talent budget. I mean, I thought he did a good job on the pay-per-view and on the TV match with Samoa Joe, and I think he's a guy you can sign as an underneath guy, and he's got talent. I mean, I talked about it last week. I think it's a little early for him to be on TV for sure. And I think Cubs maybe even wrote about that, how there were veterans who were jealous, why the fuck is this guy getting opportunities in AEW? And that kind of led to some of the friction with this other situation. But I mean, what the fuck? I mean, that's pro wrestling. When has nepotism not mattered in pro wrestling?
Right. Nepotism and youth matters a lot. It will always matter. Getting your horns in it, or getting your teeth in on a guy that's young and just so happens to be the brother of another guy that's a star. Yeah, nepotism's always ruled in the wrestling world, and youth and the desire to have youth and the desire to that's always been big. So you get a young guy that's the brother of a big time star. Yeah, of course you're going to do whatever you can.
Yeah,
to put him on TV as much as you can to try to get him, and they did. Hell, that guy was in there for whether or not he has a contract. He was wrestled 5 or 6 times on AEW television over the course of a couple of weeks. So they definitely used Gravity a bunch. But yeah, it's interesting. What's going to happen with Bandido moving forward? But yeah,
did you see Samoa Joe do Gravity's walk to get out of the way of the Joe does that spot where the guy does a crossbody and Joe just casually walks away. But against Gravity, he did Gravity's moonwalk, not the Michael Jackson style moonwalk, but you know what I'm talking, like the way Gravity does his entrance with the big astronaut steps. And Joe mocked him by doing that spot, by doing the big astronaut steps. I thought that was fucking hilarious.
Joe's the best. Joe's awesome. That match ruled.
He really is the best. Yeah, he's incredible.
There you go. So never a dull moment in the world of Lucha. But yeah, if you want to read more about that, Cubs Fan has a very, very, very detailed report. It's linked in our topics and run sheets. If you're a Patreon member, $5 tier, you can read that. But luchablog.com as well. Just a huge amount of detail that we didn't even get into. He's got all the nuts and the bolts of it. We just kind of gave you the cliff notes, the biggest points that you need to know about that. But yeah, that's interesting story. And hopefully Bandido.
I have so much CMLL to watch. I basically have the entire month of July.
I'm very behind as well. So maybe I need to do that too. I need to kind of push some of this other shit to the side and start watching some CMLL again.
Yeah, I gotta watch the July, and then maybe if there's some talking points there, we could do another roundup of it next week's show or the week after, whenever all that gets watched. Because as long as it stays interesting, I'll keep talking about it. And they definitely had just breeding results and everything. They definitely had an interesting month. So got to get it watched though.
All right, so that is the world of Lucha, Joe. I don't know what else we can do. I think we got to do WWE here. Last hour. Anything else? Hey, what's going on in the world? What are you watching? What's? We'll talk trade deadline. Yeah. What do you want to talk about? You want to do an immaculate grid on the air? We could do that.
I already did today's.
All right. Well, you want to do it again? It's right. Or do we just have to fucking do it?
Let's just fucking. I guess we have to do it.
Oh, let's
fucking
do
wretched company. I saw the trailer for the Cody doc.
Yeah.
And the very first line of the trailer.
I don't know if you knew this. His son, or Dusty Rhodes, that's his son, Cody. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah.
It's wild.
Well,
and
listen.
I think I know the exact line. Go ahead. Let me see if it's the exact line that I heard. And I said, Joe's going to hear that line and flip his fucking
This
shit.
will ensure that I never...
I think I know the exact line, but go ahead.
This will ensure that I never watch this documentary.
I think that's about the same. I was kind of the same thing too. I was like, this looks interesting. And then he said this line and I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to watch this thing ever.
Look, first of all, it's going to be all this WWE slanted bullshit. I can't fucking deal with it.
Oh, come on. You don't want to hear their version of history? So
the very first line of the trailer, like when you go to the Peacock
yep.
and you just put the cursor over the box and it does that thing where it plays like a trailer, right? Is Cody sitting in a chair and the first thing out of his mouth is my father is on the sports entertainment Mount Rushmore.
Yep, that's the line.
I puked in my mouth. I will never watch that.
When I heard that, I said, oh, God, Joe is going to flip a table when he hears Cody say, well, my father was on the sports entertainment Mount Rushmore.
Sports entertainment Mount Rushmore. Cody, have some pride. Just fucking insist.
Just say it's wrestling. I'd say, fuck that. I'm going to say it's Vince. I'm going to say Vince McMahon.
You're Cody. You've got some stroke.
I'm going to say wrestling. Who cares?
Just say it's your documentary.
What are they going to do? Fire
Just
you?
Say wrestling.
What are they going to do?
And if he don't have the guts for that bare minimum, I'm not watching that shit. And people might think that that's dumb or petty. Then you go fucking.
It says a lot about it. It says a lot about what that documentary is going to be. The fact that, again, like you said, he without saying wrestling, it's like, okay, I'm good. The sports entertainment Mount Rushmore, I'm good. I don't need that in my life.
Yeah, I refuse. Because you know what the rest of I can't. And I'm disappointed in him for saying that. Okay? And just to reiterate, and this is neither here nor there. I don't give a fuck what Cody says or WWE says. Dusty Rhodes never gave a fuck about winning the WWE World Title. Okay?
No.
You can push that story all you want. We all know that isn't true. And I just want to squeeze that in here too while I'm in a surly mood. Okay? Anyway. What do we got to do here? SummerSlam and this dopey Great American Bash?
Well, first we got to talk about some little issues with old Vince McMahon. WWE disclosed today during their earnings call. Breaking news, by the way, they made a shit ton of money this quarter, as per usual. So that's the breaking news about the earnings call. That Vince McMahon was subpoenaed on July 17th. Quote, as previously disclosed on June 17, 2022, a special committee of the board of directors was formed on June 15, 2022 to investigate allegations of misconduct by Vince McMahon. As previously disclosed, the special committee investigation was completed during the fourth quarter of 2022. However, related government investigations remain ongoing. On July 17, 2023, federal law enforcement agents executed a search warrant and served a federal grand jury subpoena on Mr. McMahon. No charges have been brought in these investigations. The company has received voluntary and compulsory legal demands for documents, including from federal law enforcement and regulatory agencies concerning the investigation and related subject matters. So there you go. The news there, July 17th, executed a search warrant, grand jury subpoena, but no charges brought about in that investigation thus far.
Yeah, so who fucking cares? What do you think's going to happen to this guy?
I don't know. Probably nothing. Never does.
Probably nothing. Well, yeah.
Probably nothing. Vince McMahon, here's what he had to say about it. There's a quote, in 2022, WWE formed a special committee to review allegations of misconduct against me. I'm sure he wrote this line for line, for sure. That review was concluded in November 2022 following an extensive investigation. Throughout this experience, I have always denied any intentional wrongdoing, continued to do so. I am confident that the government's investigation will be resolved without any findings of wrongdoing. I am focused on completing the recovery process from my recent spinal surgery and on our closing of our transaction with Endeavor, which will create one of the most preeminent global sports and entertainment brands. So, yes, in case you're wondering, potentially conspicuous timing, Vince McMahon is currently taking a medical leave of absence due to spinal surgery. So whether those two things are related, the federal grand jury subpoena and search warrant and his spinal surgery, well, I don't know.
Probably not.
I'll leave that up to you. WWE's official comment is, quote, we believe this is a continuation of the investigation that commenced last summer. WWE has cooperated throughout and fully understands and respects the government's need for the complete process. Or a complete process, I should say.
I think going in for a spinal surgery, it would be a little...
That's a lot. Yeah, wearing the neck brace during the steroid trial is one thing. Yeah, saying, all right, I need you to work on my spine. I got to get out of this thing. I can't take it.
I'm going to go for spinal surgery at 80. Look, maybe he didn't do anything else wrong here. I mean, he's been paying the money back, right? I mean, that can't,
yes.
The earnings call was today.
Yes.
And that's ongoing. So I don't know. Maybe there's no charges because they didn't get, they're looking into it and they didn't find anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of it was...
What do people want to happen? Like, what do people think is going to happen here? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, if you want the Vince McMahon perp walk, I don't think you're getting that.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. Wake me up when there's some charges. I don't know enough about this.
Yeah, I don't know enough about this either. Yeah, it seems now. Who knows what this could be? I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in and around Vince McMahon and around potential dealings with his personal finances versus the company finances and stuff. And that was always a little fishy and always a little bit weird. And it did kind of seem strange that everybody was like, oh, all right, whatever. And it's like, what was he taking company funds to pay for these things? You can't really do that if you're a publicly traded company. So there was a lot of weird stuff going on around that. But yeah, who knows? Again, I don't know enough about the situation. Nobody really does, to really say with any sort of certainty what's going on. But last but not least, Nick Khan during the earnings call said, quote, our founder, Vince McMahon, underwent major spinal surgery. While remaining the executive chairman of WWE, Vince has decided to take a medical leave of absence to focus on his physical recovery. We wish Vince the best in his recovery and will respect his privacy as it related to this medical matter. So the good news is, Joe, a member of the board of directors will be doing a press conference this weekend for SummerSlam. I'm sure somebody will follow up and dig in on, any insights they have into the charges.
Yeah.
Once they're done chanting his name and bowing before him, they will say,
yes.
Paul, Mr. Levesque, I have a question for you about the board of directors. Your fiduciary duty as a board of director member. I'm sure that will come up anytime, after the question about mommy and poppy, I'm sure. But after that, we'll get to brass tacks and see what this member of the board of directors has to say. And hey, where's your wife, by the way? Where the hell's your wife? We haven't seen her in a year. Is she okay?
Maybe that Steve Fall guy will dig in deep on the from the 10 count.
He was the guy. He was the guy who was like, he was having a moment during that Cody doc, right? Isn't he that guy? that Tito was crying over and over again?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I happen to have the tweet right in front of me, Rich.
Okay.
Steve Fall from the 10 Count says, finally watched #Becoming Cody Rhodes.
God damn it.
Holy crap, did I cry over and over and over again?
That's a lot of overs. That's a lot of crying.
Cody Rhodes is an inspiration to anyone who feels like they can't achieve their goals. Plus, I'm a dad, and I know how hard it is to balance life and a dream. At Cody Rhodes. End tweet.
All right.
What an absolute fucking dork. I mean, that. What are we doing? Now keep in mind, this is the same guy who goes to these pressers and, willfully, like he basically does character. He wants to be hired, basically. He's one of these guys that wants to be hired, or maybe he doesn't want to be hired. He just wants to, I don't know,
a level of publicity
Satin,
and
maybe.
Yeah, just a level of fame or whatever that comes with being a.
This guy watched this thing and cried
over and over and over and over again. Well, good for him, I guess. So, anyway, Steve Fall, the 10 Count. I'm sure he'll be asking Paul,
I cried.
Where's your wife?
I can relate. I cried, too, when Cody said Dusty Rhodes was on the Mount Rushmore of sports entertainers. I shed a tear.
Right.
That was sad to me. That made me cry a little.
Yeah. All right, well. Speaking of the SummerSlam, this Saturday from Ford Field on Peacock. I don't know I forget what the tagline is. It's not the biggest part. I keep saying the biggest part.
Why you keep pushing back Great American Bash?
Do it last.
Why are you doing that?
You want to do a Great American Bash now?
Why do you keep pushing it back?
I don't know. Because you don't want to talk about it. You're going to get upset. I don't want you to get too upset.
No, I'm ready to talk about it. Oh, I'm ready.
You want me to push SummerSlam away and talk Great American Bash?
I
think we can get through the SummerSlam in like 3 minutes.
All right, go ahead.
That's all I'm saying. I don't think there's that much to be said about
how can we spice this up? Because I don't even know how to approach discussing the SummerSlam.
I'm gonna say some matches. You're gonna go, all right. Then I'm gonna say another match, and then you're gonna go, I don't care, Rich. I don't care. And then I move on.
I was about to
say another match, yeah. And then we're done. And then I do that 4 or 5 times. And then we're done. And then we move on to Great American Bash. You go, Rich. What do you want me to say about Seth Rollins and Finn Balor? And then I move on. So.
What do you want me to say about Seth
exactly.
Rollins and Finn Balor?
We do it. Seth Rollins, Finn Balor. We're done. That's the WWE World Heavyweight Title match. Freakin' versus Balor. Boom. We're done.
Didn't they just have a disappointing match?
They did. Just have a disappointing match. 6 years ago, they had a match at SummerSlam for the Raw title as well.
Does anything matter? Does any of this matter?
It doesn't. Boom. Done. All right. Shayna Baszler, Ronda Rousey, MMA rules. Rousey's done. She's finishing up.
All right. So I guess Baszler wins.
I think so. Probably. Yes.
All right, great. I'm
sure
it'll be a launching pad to massive success.
Oh, yes. I'm sure people will learn and they will push Shayna Baszler afterwards. Rousey, a fascinating career if this is it for her in WWE. Like, she came in, people are not going to believe how big of a deal she was. And it's hard to believe how not big of a deal she has been since. You know what I mean? Like a tangible draw, ratings mover, all this stuff that you could say, an actual star with a capital S for Ronda Rousey when she came in, and she has been hanging around now for like 2 or 3 years, and you forget she's in the company. Just a person on the roster. It's wild.
When's NWA 75? Can we do that to annoy that one guy?
NWA, unfortunately, I think you're gonna have to wait a little bit. That's the end of August. August 26th and 27th is NWA's 75th anniversary. So,
all right. Well, okay, let's get through this. SummerSlam.
Come on.
Yeah.
SummerSlam Battle Royal. Brought to you by Slim Jims or something, I think. Shinsuke Nakamura, Sheamus, Tommaso Ciampa, L.A. Knight, Chad Gable, Otis, and question mark, and then a number of other question marks. I'm not going to do that gimmick for as many. I don't know how many people are in the SummerSlam Battle Royal presented by Slim Jim. So, but budding star L.A. Knight is in there, so maybe he'll win it. Young hotshot L.A. Knight. Boom, done. Ricochet versus Logan Paul.
All right, well, okay, look.
There's some juice
Royal
here.
Rumble.
There's some juice here.
I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah,
this
I
has
am
some
too.
juice. All right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's coming soon. The match where LA Knight and Freaking get in the ring and half the crowd just does the Rollins song and the other half of the crowd just says, yeah, the whole time. And they do that for 25 minutes. And then wrestling has we're done. It's over. And it gets like a 9.8 on Cage Match. It's like the best thing ever, and everybody loves it, and then we give up, and then this show's done. Or we just talk about old Continental Wrestling instead. We just review old episodes of Continental Wrestling. Gunther versus Drew McIntyre. WWE Intercontinental Championship match. Gunther defending the title against Drew McIntyre. WWE Women's Title Triple Threat match. Asuka defending her title against Bianca Belair. Oh, yeah, and of course, they fucking found a way to get Charlotte Flair involved. So, I wonder who's going to win this match, Joe.
Did you see Raw's had like 6 minutes of women's wrestling on the last 3 weeks? How come no one talks about that? Well,
it's weird. It is interesting how they don't talk about that and how they constantly have advertised Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch. And then they're just not doing it. And then now they're not doing it on the show either. So,
do you know how annoying the women's wrestling discourse is? That guy from Fightful, the Sour Grapes guy, Alex, whatever his last name is. I don't want to mispronounce it. Pawlowski or whatever his last name is. He made a tweet this week, annoyed at the lack of women's wrestling on Raw, right? And he named all these WWE contracted wrestlers that he hasn't seen in a while that he would like to see wrestle more.
Oh, I did see
he went right down the list. Piper Niven and
right. We're all
Kaylee Ray.
We're all clamoring for Piper Niven to come back. I know.
He named all the stars, Rich. He went right down the line. Now, look, the point here isn't that this man wants to see all these mediocre wrestlers, because I looked at that list and thought to myself, there's 10 wrestlers on this list. And if 8 of them retired tomorrow, I would never miss any of them for a second. But that's not the point here, okay? The point here is this man would like to see these wrestlers, and Raw is not providing that for him because they don't do any women's wrestling on Raw anymore. This, and to make his point, he quote tweeted a WWE tweet with this Maxine character who's with Otis.
Yes, she's with Otis and Chad Gable.
And she was doing the worm. And that was the only women's match on the show, apparently. So his point was, hey, look, you have all these women on the shelf, and all you're giving me is this goofball doing the worm, right? Which I have to say, if you want to see all those wrestlers he wants to see, I would be annoyed by that too, right?
Right. Maxine doing the worm is the women's representation on the show. Yeah.
This terrible wrestler doing the worm, doing a comedy gimmick. And, you know, this is how bad the women's wrestling discourse is now. This dude, the Alex Grapes guy, he got killed for that in the quote tweets and the replies. They're mad at him, Rich, because now it's all, well, you should make your point without burying Maxine, who's out there trying her best.
Oh, yes. I forgot you would have to do that. Yes. That's true. I forget that's where criticism has gone, is that, well, hold on a minute.
Criticism is fucking dead if that's how people are going to look at these things.
Well, that's mean to Maxine, so you shouldn't be mean to Maxine. You should think about Maxine's
why can't
feelings.
hold on now. Why can't I be mean to Maxine if I think Maxine sucks?
Right. She's trying really hard, though.
I don't care. She's on Monday Night Raw. And
well, Joe, if you want, I have an article for you later in the pantheon of, well, you can't criticize because people are trying kind of hard. Don't, just you wait. I got an all-timer.
Now. This is a women's wrestling advocate begging for more. And they got mad at him, not the company. It's just the most annoying, tiresome, exhausting discourse, regardless of the promotion. You may continue.
All right. So, anything else on Asuka, Charlotte, and Bianca? Probably not.
Who gives a shit? What's next?
Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes, the son of Dusty Rhodes, who was on the Mount Rushmore of sports entertainment.
Yeah, Cody says he's putting an end to it. in Detroit.
It's over. It's over. I hope.
This sports entertainment feud is over. No, you can't say feud, right? This sports entertainment dispute.
I don't know what their word is.
over.
Yeah, what's their word for? They don't really say.
Rivalry?
They just say this
What do they
ends
say?
on Sunday or whatever. I don't,
this ends. Yeah,
they don't really ever say a word there.
they don't have a word for it. Yeah.
No, these guys have good matches together. I'm sure it'll be fun.
No, I'll be into that. Look, I have to watch this, so that's a match that I'll actually look forward to watching.
Yeah, Brock matches are good. Cody matches are usually good. So
Yeah.
Should be fun.
Yeah. Being fair.
And then you have a tribal combat match in your main event here. WWE title and WWE Universal title in a tribal combat match. Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso. Joe, do they finish the story? Because a couple weeks ago, everybody said, we figured it out. Jay's the story. That's the Cody. No, that's not the story. Jay's the story. But now, as we're getting close to it, like we always do, everyone's going, I don't know if you do it now. I don't know if you want Roman to lose now. So it's like, all right, we're going to reset the clock. Okay, never mind. This isn't actually the story. No, we don't know what the story is anymore again. So is this the story, Joe, or is it not the fucking story?
All right, put your fucking world title on Jey Uso. Who cares? Who cares?
But he's not.
That
No,
title
it's not
don't mean
the
anything anymore
story.
anyway.
It's not ready yet. It's funny because we always get really ready for these, and then in the weeks that lead up to it, it gets like progressively more where everyone's like, actually, I don't know if we're quite ready yet for this to happen. I should mention in the tribal combat match, this is also for recognition of tribal chief. So whoever wins will be recognized as the tribal chief. So if non-DUI Uso wins, he will be recognized. He's non-DUI, right?
I don't know. Aren't they both DUI Uso?
Maybe he did have one. I forget now. One of them is definitely a DUI Uso. I forget if this one is or not. So
yeah, I don't know either.
Okay, no, he did also have a DUI. So okay, they're both DUI.
All right.
Anyway,
They're
but
both
this one,
DUIs.
Jay will could potentially become the tribal chief in this tribal combat match. So we'll see.
Okay.
They'll probably hit each
Why
other
not?
with
Do it.
kendo sticks. Great. Yeah, I say fuck it. Let's do it. Jey Uso, champion. Let's do it.
Put the title that Dusty never won on the other Uso, Jey Uso. Why not? Wait, is this the title that Dusty always wanted to win, or is it one of their other 19?
No, this is the title that Cody, who's Dusty's son, wanted to win for Dusty. Yes, because he never won it. It was this one, the combined WWE title and the WWE Universal title. Yes. I was hoping you were going to ask me what a tribal combat match is. I don't know what it is, and I've been trying to figure it out, and I don't know. So we'll move on. I guess we don't know exactly what it entails yet, so we'll find out. All right. SummerSlam. Let's.
Can you even hear me? What's going on?
I got you. What's up?
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. I don't know what was going on. I think it got funky there for a second, but yeah, let's just end this story so I never have to hear about it again.
Yeah, great.
Let's end
Jey
it right
Uso.
here.
Let's
just
do it.
Put it on Jey Uso, and that's that. No more bloodline. That would be nice to not have to hear about the bloodline anymore. And who cares?
If Jay doesn't win this too, like what are we?
I don't know.
We're kicking that can down the road again, and like, not. Jay
Rich,
was the
these
story.
mutants are going to watch SmackDown
Solo's
no matter
the
what.
story. It's like, okay, we'll move on to the next one. But they're going to get 2 million viewers, and who cares? Who gives a fuck? Yeah, eat at Arby's.
These 2.5 million mutants are
We'll
going
watch
to
it
put on
anyway.
SmackDown next week. It doesn't make a difference.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
They love this shit. You
Jay
just
will
have to be fucking.
Jay will have to show up to SmackDown and recognize Roman as his tribal chief, and Jimmy will shiver in the corner. Paul will hold the titles, and we'll just and people will say, the story isn't really Jey Uso. It's Cody getting back to there at WrestleMania. Okay, so now we're back to that. Okay, great. All right, let's do that. Anyway, Summer
It's
Slam.
You got to be. Arby. It's about it. It's just.
Joe, you are breaking up a little bit. Can you hear me now? We are having some problems here with Joe. I can.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, you're good.
Hear
You're
me.
back. I'm back. I think we're all back. Okay, it was a little while there. You were on something about eat at Arby's, and I didn't hear what the hell you said. So now we go. He has departed. All right, we'll get Joe back on in a moment here. He has signed off briefly just to fix out his connection thing. So, all right, so that is there we go. That is the SummerSlam. There will be a preview up at voicesofwrestling.com from one Suit Williams coming up in the next couple of days, next couple of hours, hopefully. Be up pretty soon. Joe, you are back. Does everything sound good now, you think?
You tell me.
You sound good. All right. You were doing some Eat at Arby's rant. I don't know what you were talking about, but we can just...
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Myself included. All right. The Great American Bash, the NXT Premium Live event. Now, Joe, you went in person to the HEB Center at Cedar Park in Austin, Texas. What was it like being there live for a NXT PLE?
You know, I didn't go.
Okay.
I knew I shouldn't have watched this show.
I told you not to. For the record, full disclosure, everybody, I told Joe, do not watch NXT. I will watch it for you. You watch too much shit. There's a lot of shit that you watch that I don't watch. You don't have to watch NXT this week. I will watch NXT for you. I'm already halfway through the show. Don't watch it. I'll watch it. And you watch it anyway.
It's
you didn't have to do
this.
this.
Gives me, I have like this crisis. I don't understand. Like, I watched this show and it was terrible, up and down, like irredeemably bad show. And then I look on the cage match, and cage match could be a little wacky. I think
for sure, especially WWE wise, it has been particularly wacky lately.
Rich, I watched this Carmelo Hayes Ilya Dragunov match. Okay,
yeah,
and it was aggressively fine, to use an overused term.
Good little main event. Good little main event.
I went like 3 stars on it. It had perfectly fine work with all of the usual bullshit that's attached to a WWE match, but especially a WWE main event, in that it was completely and totally built around Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. And none of the work in the match mattered until Ilya Dragunov accidentally smashed into Trick Williams. And then they went right to the finish. And there was a spot late in the match where they did the patented, let's stop the match and have 2 guys talk to each other, when Trick Williams grabbed the title and went over to Hayes and was saying, this is what you're fighting for. Don't lose sight.
Right.
This is what we're fighting for. It's just all the tropey bullshit that comes with these WWE matches, especially NXT. Then Hayes wins, and the last 15 to 20 seconds of the broadcast was Ilya Dragunov making these annoying fucking faces, and Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes making annoying fucking faces, and the camera switching back and forth
between the faces, yeah,
to the faces that they're making. Go watch if you think I'm lying.
Oh no, it happened, yeah.
These fucking faces that Dragunov is making. And I'm just like, this is such shit. This isn't pro wrestling. It just isn't even wrestling. And then I go on the cage match. And at the time that I'd looked, this match was sitting at 9.4. It now sits a little lower.
It's one of the best matches of all time.
9.17. You're telling me that 250 people think that this bullshit, run-of-the-mill, NXT melodrama garbage, which is what it was, is in the same pantheon as the greatest all-Japan matches of all time from the 90s and the great New Japan G1 matches from the 2010s and all of the other greatest matches of all time. And this is a 9.4 pro wrestling match. Rich, if this is this is what I'm talking about, where I'm having a crisis, because I feel like I no longer understand pro wrestling. I really feel that way. When a match like this, people think is great.
But do people you trust, do people that you trust think that this match was great?
I don't know, Rich. There's 250 people who rated this.
But they're cage match idiot. The cage match, we know what cage match is now, especially with WWE stuff. We do.
Oh, it's the children are the problem? Is that what's happening? No, that's my concern. Maybe we're the ones out of touch, Rich.
Yeah,
maybe
but
this is great
most
now.
people I know, most people I know that watched that and reviewed it, and people that I care to listen to and talk about, all kind of had the same thought of like, this is okay, but that wasn't that great. Yeah, it was fine. Most people say, hey, the closing stretch was pretty good, but everything else is pretty boring at the beginning.
A lot of people thought MJF and Adam Cole eating spicy food was funny too, Rich. I'm concerned. Rich, I am concerned. Because I don't want to be that guy. This is the crisis I'm having. Maybe all this shit is good. Maybe I'm the one. I don't get it anymore, Rich. I don't get it. Rich, I watched Tiffany Stratton.
This match was so. Don't tell me, what does this match have on Cage Match? This might throw me into a rage.
Listen, I watched Tiffany Stratton wrestle the most annoying pro wrestler on the face of the fucking earth. There is Thea Hale. Let me be clear to the audience. There is not a single pro wrestler to ever grace a ring that I hate more than her. She is the most off-putting and annoying pro wrestler to ever step foot between the ropes. Ever. In the history of pro wrestling. Okay? And she's everything that this company is and wants, which is what's also depressing. I watched this match between these two, and they fucking stink. Make no mistake about it.
I think Stratton's okay. I see something in her. Like
not on this night.
Not on. Well, I don't know if this is fully her fault on this night.
I have defended Stratton. I have written about Stratton. I see big things for Stratton. I do. Right now, she fucking stinks. And she was abysmal. Not bad, not subpar, not awful. Abysmal in this match. And Thea Hale is utterly.
I think Thea, no, and that's why I wanted to defend Tiffany Stratton a little bit. I've seen Tiffany Stratton have some okay matches. I've seen potential in her. I've seen things that have worked for her. I don't think a submission match is the best way to utilize her, but I've seen things with her where I'm like, okay, I see it. I see something. I've never seen anything in Thea, and I thought she was fucking brutal in this match to the point where they didn't know what to do with her. They had her sitting in submission holds the whole match.
Not only okay.
When Stratton has to be the one leading you through the match and doing most of the work, that's not good. You know what I mean? That worries me a lot for the future of a Thea Hale.
Well, why are all these shitty wrestlers always in gimmick matches that they can't handle?
That is a great question. You must ask Shawn Michaels that. We can ask him that on the next NXT media call that we never get into.
I'm sure. So. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be the first question loaded up. Now listen. Here's the other problem. Thea Hale is sitting in these submissions making her annoying fucking faces.
This match was 11 minutes of Thea Hale in submission making faces going,
Not only was she making faces, she was literally saying the word ow over and over. She was making her ugly Thea Hale faces, and she was saying, ow, ow, ow.
Well, she's in pain. How else do you say that you're in pain?
What
She's so bad, man. She's so bad.
Will someone please explain to me what these people do all day in that fucking performance center? Not only and on top of that, Stratton has her in these crab holds.
Yeah, they're all just crabs, by the way. Every one of these moves is a Boston crab, by the way.
And
it's a single leg crab. It's a double leg crab. It's your standard Boston crab. It's a single leg crab, and then it's like kind of a crab hold with a little bit of an arm, and a little bit of a little bit of a headlock variation.
Yeah,
but
and she's making,
essentially, they're all just crabs. They're just the same thing over and over.
Hale is reaching for the ropes and making these dumb, ugly looking faces. the whole time and saying "ow."
Well,
and Straton literally fell off of Hale's back multiple times, and Hale kept selling. Rich, she kept selling and acting like she couldn't get to the ropes, despite the fact that Straton was no longer holding her in the hold. She was falling off of her, and Hale was still selling and acting like she couldn't get to the rope.
Well,
it happened more than once.
It did happen at least twice. I remember 2 times that it happened. But
what was this?
It was fucking atrocious. And now you're going to tell me the cage match rating, and I'm also going to have an existential crisis.
I wrote down after watching this abysmal piece of shit. This is what I wrote down. Comically bad. One of the worst pro wrestling matches I've ever seen. Fucking dud. And I circled dud about 19 times.
It was a fucking dud for sure.
This was a dud. This was one of the worst exhibitions of professional wrestling humanly possible. Cage match rating. You ready?
I don't know if I am, actually.
6.20.
Oh, no.
These people think that this was a 3-star match.
Oh.
Rich, it's over.
It might be
It's
over.
over,
You know,
Rich.
I didn't agree with you 10 minutes ago. I now agree with you. It is over.
We've
can't
lost. Find me a worse pro wrestling match on purpose than this match. You can't. Everything was bad and wrong. She couldn't even. Tiffany Stratton couldn't hold on to a Boston Crab. And the other, and Hale kept selling when the opponent was falling off of her. With her exaggerated dumb faces and literally saying "ow" over and over. This is what they're teaching? This is what they want?
Well, Joe, she's only 19. So you have to. I don't know.
I can't, Rich, I'm out of touch. I don't understand pro wrestling anymore. That's how I feel every time I watch NXT. I don't understand what this is supposed to be anymore.
I don't know. Yeah, for people that do not, the finish was to chase you guys through the towel in for Thea while she was in one of the many crabs. After the 7th crab was like, all right, this is enough. We've had enough here. We're throwing the towel. Thank God.
I had enough, and I would have liked to have thrown the towel.
I'm so glad Duke Hudson threw in the towel there because we needed that.
I think Chase threw it, but
whatever. Regardless, who cares? Somebody threw the fucking towel. Thank God.
You know, everyone buried the Baron Corbin Gable Stevenson match. I thought that this match was 1,000 times worse.
I would agree. That was going to be my hot take later in the night. Is that I thought that this match was much, much worse, and given a lot more time.
Corbin Stevenson wasn't good, but it was also just fine. Everyone was like, Joe, you have to see this Baron Corbin Gable Stevenson.
Yeah, it wasn't that
match.
bad. It wasn't a disaster like I thought.
I didn't like it, but at the same time, how do you not think that Stratton Hale wasn't eons worse than that? Corbin Stevenson was just Corbin beating up Stevenson.
Right, it was the wrong match to have for that guy. We're going to get to that. It was the absolute worst possible way that you can debut Gable Stevenson. The worst possible way you could ever debut this guy is have him come out, and the guy is a fucking charisma void. I talked about that again. I don't know that you're going to... I mean, Kurt Angle, in his earliest pro wrestling days, people will say, oh, he found his personality later. Go watch those matches. He's got something. He's got some sort of modicum of a personality. Was it to the level that we all thought, or what he would become later? Absolutely not. He became... He lived this business. He became a pro wrestler through and through, and became just one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. I don't know that everybody assumed that was going to happen after Survivor Series 1999 or whatever when he made his debut. But with that said, Gable Stevenson has no fucking... I mean, he comes out, he like slowly lifts his hands in the air, like, yeah, and the crowd's like, yeah, okay, cool. And then, okay, the layout of the match, fucking horrific. So you have Gable Stevenson out here. This is his debut. You have him in the ring with Baron Corbin, who is a foot taller than him. And I'm not one of Vince McMahon's guy. I don't believe in the Vince McMahon edict that tall is strong and tall people are inherently going to be tougher than that's stupid shit, especially when you have a decorated champion gold medalist amateur wrestler there. It's fine but the optics of it are just, it's kind of weird, right? Like, like it's Baron Corbin, this guy who's a foot taller than Gable Steveson. And you're like, oh, shit, man, that other guy looks a lot more menacing than Gable Steveson does. And that's the gold medalist guy. Okay, whatever. The bell's going to ring and Gable's going to prove that, who gives a shit? I'm going to take this guy down. I'm one of the most decorated wrestlers ever. I'm going to beat the fuck out of this guy. Instead, they have him sell for Baron Corbin for 5 minutes. What are you doing? Why would you think that if you're not gonna debut this guy against a small guy that's gonna make him look menacing and he throws the guy around and does this stuff, then have him debut against a guy that's taller than him and have him throw him around and do like the Gable Steveson thing? It shouldn't be that hard. The Gable Steveson thing is the guy throws around people and shows what he can do. What he did in the post match here, throws guys around, looks physically imposing with and then that's it. Like that I don't understand why we needed to have this guy. We need to see how he can sell. Not yet. We don't need to see how he can sell yet. For while you just got this guy, while he just started, go out there and fucking wreck shop, beat people up, throw people around, show something. I mean, it's fucking pro wrestling. It's a work. You can work this. What are you doing? Why are you having him sell for Baron Corbin? What are we doing?
I completely agree. The layout was awful. The execution was fine. I mean, I look, here's my question, though. You do the double count out, whatever. Steveson gets the better of Corbin and gets his heat back, right? Like at the end, he throws him through, what was it, the table or whatever the fuck he threw him through.
Oh, he threw him through the barricade, Joe. Drink. Yeah. Somebody went through the barricade and a WWE PLE. Yeah, somebody went through a barricade. Drink.
So it's a double count out, and the point is for Steveson to leave looking better at the end of the day, right?
Right.
Well, then why not just have him win the fucking match?
Yeah. We got to protect Baron Corbin in the year 2023. Why is he in NXT then, Baron Corbin, if he's not here to put guys over? What are we doing?
Why can't, if the idea is for Steveson to look good at the end of the day, why doesn't he just win the match? Cage match rating, Rich. 2.44.
Oh.
So, again, I can't get into the mind of someone who thinks this was worse than Stratton and Thea Hale. It will never make sense to me. I can't wrap my head around it.
No, it was brutal. It was brutal, but no, it wasn't. No, it was certainly not.
How about the weapons?
Well, hold on a minute.
Match.
I gotta you said criticism is dead, Joe?
Yeah.
I disagree. Criticism is not dead. The fine folks, because we're going to criticize this piece from CagesideSeats.com. Rude fans tarnish Gable Stevenson's pro wrestling debut.
Yeah, because they chanted for Corbin, which, that's the old thing. Like, these pesky fans aren't reacting right.
Got to get back to that Thunderdome, man. Got to get back to that Thunderdome where these pesky fans won't do that anymore. Yeah.
It's the fans' fault. It's never the promotion's fault that they're not telling the right story. It's the fans' fault, always.
Right. That this guy comes out, he has no charisma. They've done nothing with this guy, and he's in a match with Baron Corbin, and the fans have just decided, you know what, screw this guy. And also, guess what they did? When they brought in Kurt Angle, this is a very famous story as well. They brought in Kurt Angle. They played a bunch of videos before he debuted of him talking about the 3 eyes and talking about his accomplishments as a gold medalist or whatever. And they kind of got a sense. They listened to the crowd a little bit, and the crowd was like, this guy kind of seems like a fucking prick. Or this guy, this guy looks like a fucking dick. Screw this guy. And the famous story, I believe this is correct, and somebody can, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure they will, that before he hit the ring to face Meat, or I don't know if he was Meat or Sean Stasiak at this time, I forget, that Vince McMahon was convinced, no, they're going to cheer you, Kurt. And Kurt was saying, they're not going to cheer me. If they don't cheer me, I'm going to pivot and I'm just going to be a bad guy. And Vince was considered, no, you're a gold medalist, you're an Olympian, they're not going to boo you. Kurt thinking, they're going to think I'm a fucking prick because look at me. I look like a fucking prick, and I talk about how hard I work and drinking milk and the 3 eyes and all that sort of stuff. They're going to think I'm a prick. So you know what? I'm just going to go heel if the fans boo me. He comes out, the fans boo him, and the rest is history. Kurt Angle then became that prick character. The 3 eyes, I drink milk, and I work harder than everybody else, and I have gold medals and that sort of stuff. And it worked out perfectly. And that probably is what you should have also done with Gable Steveson here, is recognize, hey, look, these fans are not that into this guy for a multitude of reasons beyond just his got a charisma void. There's other aspects of this man's life that people might not see eye to eye with and might not really enjoy rooting for this guy. And also we're in a time period where USA, hey, this guy won gold medals isn't, this is not 1984. Like, that's not going to be an easy gimmick to say is, hey, this guy's a decorated Olympian. He wrestled for the United States of America. Like, that's not going to make, a whole, it's not an easy win that you're just going to say, hey, you love America, right? Well, this guy represented America. Like, that ain't going to work in 2023. You know what I mean? So I would have probably pivoted to, let's see how the fans react. And hey, if they react poorly, be an asshole, but I don't know if he has that in him. I don't even know if he knew how to do that. If they even knew that was going to happen, I have no idea. Regardless, rude fans tarnish Gable Stevenson's pro wrestling debut. Quote, having worked in public service and as someone who patronizes businesses, I've seen multiple instances of customers berating brand new employees on their first day, and it's disgusting. Mistreating and verbally abusing someone trying to do their best when they're just starting is ignorant and mean. What a lead.
Oh,
what
my God.
a lead.
Oh, you can fuck right off.
So, Joe,
on a pay-per-view.
So, Joe Sixpack being mean to a Wendy's employee is the same as these people booing Gable Steveson, who's been training in the Performance Center for months and months and months.
Right
yeah.
Off.
Unfortunately,
what is happening?
The folks of Cedar Park, Texas didn't get the memo about how it's not this. I feel like this is parody, and I don't think it's parody. I kept waiting for someone to say, nah, fuck that guy or whatever, but it was never parody. Unfortunately, the folks at Cedar Park, Texas didn't get the memo about how it's not cool to be curious. I don't know. That's a ridiculous word. To newbies, as they lustily booed Gable Steveson during his debut against Baron Corbin at NXT's Great American Bash.
Maybe it is parody. Maybe it's parody.
I don't think it is. Those gathered at the HEB Center cheered for Corbin as if he were a hometown hero, while actively dumping, I'm not going to name the guy, on the gold medalist.
No, you have to name, I'll name him.
It's M. Gomez. M. Gomez is his name. I don't know anything about the guy.
Thanks.
The Olympic gold medalist and two-time NCAA wrestling champion. Perhaps some of that disdain came from Stevenson's past legal issues. That I could understand. He added that line later, by the way. When I first read that line wasn't in there. But anyway, but considering they were chanting, "You're not Angle," referring to Kurt Angle, who was also an Olympic gold medalist, it's likely that the Cedar Park faithful just weren't into Steveson as a performer. Seriously? It's the kid's first match, and he's already getting grief because he doesn't perform like a 20-year veteran or because he paid homage to Angle with a few of his moves? Give me a break, or more importantly, give Gable one.
Oh, come on.
As to be expected, Steveson had some rough moments, but he held his own and kept pace with a seasoned pro like Corbin. At one point, there appeared to be a miscommunication or a mistiming on a suplex spot. Steveson froze, but then began throwing punches at Corbin. Was it a rookie mistake? Probably. But occasionally, there are awkward beats and rough transitions between well-versed stars, so that one glitch wasn't a big deal. That Steveson didn't linger lost in the wind for very long was impressive. Well, except to those heckling fans. The finish was a draw as both men were counted out of the ring, resulting in chants of bullshit from the audience, though the ensuing post-match brawl between Corbin and Steveson got them cheering again. Still, it wasn't enough to make up for the rude reception given to the highly touted rookie. From what I saw, Steveson will be fine once he gets more in-ring time, and he'll likely be better off as a heel at some point. But for now, he'll have to grin and bear it, as he'll probably face hostility in the future from people who must have been flawless employees during their first days at a new job.
My God!
Now, if that's parody, brilliant. That guy rules. That is brilliant if it's parody.
I didn't think it was parody. Then I did think it was parody. And now I'm back to thinking it's not parody. You can't be fucking serious to write something like that. I mean, and it wasn't even that bad. All they did was chant the other guy's name.
Right. It's okay. He's a big boy. He'll be all right.
That's not the crowd. It's your job to get over. You. It's your job to get over as a performer. It's the booker's job.
Yeah, it's the company's job. Yeah.
Yes. The fans can react however the fuck they want. They weren't disrespectful to him. They didn't curse him or put him in danger, throw things at him. They just cheered for the other guy.
What has happened to this business show? What are we doing?
Rich, this is what I'm saying. I don't understand anymore. I don't understand it.
You guys are mean to Gable Steveson. He's just trying his best. It's like, okay.
Yeah, we're mean to Maxine because we don't like her comedy.
Right. Stop being mean to these people that I don't know. I'm friends with these people. Stop being mean to them. It's Gable Steveson, dude. M. Gomez, he wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire, man. Come on. Like, he doesn't fucking care about you. You think he's reading that going, oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Listen, ultimately, this is all WWE's fault.
Yeah.
Rich, I tell you, we've said a lot of bad things about this show, but I got to say, when it was time for the Weapons Wild match.
Which got wild, let me tell you.
And I saw Roxanne Perez.
Did you hear her pre-match promo? Did you hear her pre-match promo?
I did.
Blair,
it was.
People think I am a pushover, but you have taken me to a place that I don't know if I want to be, but you are going to see what that place is at the Great American Bash this Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, all right.
Classic Roxanne Perez.
Yeah. She's fired up. She's gone to that place.
Yeah.
And she
was.
Place. I mean, man, she came out smiling, slapping hands, hugging, and then she hit Blair Davenport with trash can lids. And man, so she got,
you know what?
She got taken to that place for sure.
After all of that with that promo and warning about how she's getting taken to that place, she comes out smiling and slapping high five to everybody. And perfect makeup.
Yep.
You know.
You are not going to like me the way I am on Sunday because you have taken me to a place I don't even know if I want to be. It's like, uh-oh.
And then she came out and it was the same old Roxanne Perez. Like, what is this place?
You haven't gone there. You're not there yet.
So she comes out, though. And Rich, she was wearing all white. And I was thinking to myself, you know what?
Were you really? You were really thinking that?
It's a Weapons Wild match. I think Roxanne Perez is going to run the blade here. She's going coast to coast, baby. And I can't wait. Roxanne has been in that PC watching Tommy Rich tapes. She's been asking Shawn Michaels. She's like, Shawn,
it's Great American Bash season. She probably went through all of them. She probably went into their database and said, give me all the Great American Bashes. I want to watch all those. And she's watching old.
She said, Shawn, we're going Weapons Wild this Saturday. What do you suggest? And Shawn said, listen, Roxanne, I don't know if you want to go there. And she said, no, I'm going to that place.
I'm in that place. I'm already there.
And she watched all the Tommy Rich. And she watched all the Abdullah the Butcher. And she watched all of these tapes in that PC and that great tape library. And she said, Shawn, I'm going coast to coast.
I want color.
That's what I was thinking.
I'm getting color, brother.
Coming out on,
I'm getting color, brother.
White. I'm like, they're going to do it, Rich. They're going to do the thing. And this is going to get violent. And she promised that she was going to that place.
Weapons Wild.
The weapons are wild. Wild weapons, Rich. Trash can lids aplenty. Aluminum trash can lids all over. We had the fake black
Nobody
ladders.
has used one of those trash cans.
We had the
27 years.
Chairs, the black chairs.
Collapsible black
we
chairs.
We had the belt. Blair
the cowbell. The cowbell. And then Dusty, whose son is Cody Rhodes, by the way.
He's a sports. He's a sports entertainment Mount Rushmore.
Right.
So you got to get.
She got the cowbell out, and then Vic Joseph made his 9th Dusty Rhodes reference of the night.
That's right.
And Booker T went, "Oh, Roxanne in that place."
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. But sadly, Rich, no color.
No
color.
No crimson mask.
Why wear the white to a Weapons Wild match and tell me you're going to a place you don't want to go? And then you don't even give me a little color? We don't carve up the forehead? I thought that was coming. I swear to God.
I'm sure you did. Did you really?
I said Roxanne's going to do the deal.
She's got her Texas faithful chanting Roxy, Roxy, Roxy. Yeah, you thought, but no, didn't.
The Texas faithful, her family sitting at ringside. I thought Blair. I thought Roxy was going to go coast to coast, and then Blair was going to drag her over to her family and rip the wound open. Right?
Yeah, like, oh yeah, put her up to the I'm doing the punch, you know, the punch you gotta do.
The little rabbit punches, and then rip the wound open with the hands.
Yeah.
Right? As her sister and her mother look on in horror. I thought we were getting it. And then Blair maybe wipes the blood and licks it off of her hands.
Yeah. So she's a sick fuck. It's chanted. Yeah, really.
Yeah.
You sick fuck. You sick fuck is Blair Davenport's
fuck?
licking the blood off of a chair or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought we were getting when she came out in all white.
Yeah.
And especially Rich, when Vic Joseph dropped this gem in the middle of the match. As Blair Davenport was taking it to Roxy with the aluminum trash can lids.
Trying to avoid the pop rocks at any cost.
And she sets up a table, which, by the way, got the biggest pop
pop of the night. The fucking table. I knew it.
Was the table set up.
God.
Vic Joseph dropped this one, and I quote, Booker T, what barbaric concepts has Blair Davenport drawn up in her sick mind? End quote. And I have to be honest, I was thinking the same thing. This weapons wild match was out of control, Rich. Chairs.
Trash can lids.
A table.
Did you say chairs yet? You did, right?
The black collapsible fake chairs.
Okay. Trash can lids. I'm looking at my notes here. Trash can lids, chairs. You got both those, right?
You know, we didn't get any kendo sticks, but
no,
I got to admit, those were a little played out. But we saw the barbaric concepts that Blair Davenport had drawn up in her sick mind, Rich, on full display.
Yeah.
In this weapons wild match. Boy. And then Roxanne wins it with a fucking coat right on the chairs or whatever.
Well, she did the splash through the table. That was where she really had to, to avenge all of the attacks, because Blair Davenport's been attacking all the women and tearing all their ACLs backstage for months, if not years backstage. So Roxy avenged all of them by doing a splash through a table and then bringing her in the ring and then doing the pop rocks and winning the match. So.
Then she wins the match and she does her same post-match dopey celebration with the smile. And even though, she survived Blair Davenport's barbaric
the barbaric tendencies or whatever the hell it was. Yeah.
Barbaric concepts. She survived
yes.
them. So give her some credit.
You got to give her some credit for sure.
And I'm just watching this, and it's like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Why? Now, you ready, Rich?
Yes.
Cage match rating.
Oh, no. No, don't do it. I don't even care. No, don't do it.
Settled in?
Yeah.
7.26.
Stop. 7? Anything?
Pull it up yourself. Pull it up yourself, sir. Maybe you were expecting a 3.
Nah, I wasn't expecting a 3. I don't know if I was expecting a 7 for this weapons wild, but
we have people in the comments of the match complaining that it's only at a 7.
Yeah, not high enough.
I am confused about how this match is only 7. A good match. I like the way the match was structured. I liked Blair beating up Roxanne in front of her family. Pop rocks on chairs was a cool ending. I thought the match, oh God, I thought the match needed at least 3 to 5 more minutes.
Oh yeah, that's what it needed. Wrapping up in 12 minutes, no good. Yeah, if this thing went 15.
9 from that person.
Whoa.
They would have went 10 if it got 3.
That's a hell of a rating for a match that you were like, a good match. I liked that. Like, you know, that's like one of the 9 is like elite level. We've lost we don't know what we're doing anymore.
It's over, Rich. It's over.
We've
This
lost
is
the
the
plot.
future of wrestling.
We've lost the
Accept it.
Cage match was fun while it lasted, but it's over now too. All right, quickly here, since we're out of time here. The family defeated Gallus to become the new NXT tag team.
Oh my God! How
champions.
much of a raw ass 2-star match was that?
That was real raw. That was raw as fuck.
It was just nothing.
No,
just a nothing match. And that Donato stinks. D'Angelo, whatever his name is.
D'Angelo, Tony D'Angelo. Yeah, he ain't it. He ain't it. No.
He'll main event Mania.
No, he won't. Tony D'Angelo will never main event WrestleMania.
Yeah,
Thea Hale might. I don't know about Tony D'Angelo. He's not me.
People love Thea Hale. They think those faces are good.
Let's go! I don't know. Yeah, it's
where she like makes balls up the fist and shakes and fucking screams. People think that shit is good. It's over, Rich.
And speaking of not over, I don't know if on this night your long-held belief that you will not ever care about Dominic Mysterio. He had a North American title match with Mustafa Ali and Wesley, and he won this particular match. And Joe, I got to ask the question: did you care about this match, or did you care about Dominic?
I don't care about Dominic. I'll never care about Dominic.
No poppy for you. You don't like dirty. What about if they call him Dirty Dom Mysterio? Does that help?
How come Wesley is never in a singles match?
I don't know. And poor Wesley had to take a 450 and then a frog splash and then get pinned. That was pretty. I was like, oh man, that kind of sucks for old Wesley. Yeah, this was another just raw match. That don't even tell me the cage. I don't even want to hear it. Please.
7.79.
No.
Yeah, but see,
it's fine.
That main event is over 9. Like that main event is like the same score as like some of the classic matches that you've seen in your like. I don't know anymore. I'm having an existential wrestling crisis.
That's fair.
I am. I don't know how to fix this. Do I need a vacation or something?
Yeah, maybe.
What do I gotta do?
G1 season, I think, has wore you out a little bit. I think G1 season, and just realizing that cage match is over and you can't go to cage match anymore for match rating, at least WWE match ratings. I think if we just
do I need to stop watching this company?
I think you need to stop for a while. Yeah, I think you do. You're gonna watch the SummerSlam? You don't have to watch the SummerSlam. I'll watch the SummerSlam if you want. You want to start with the SummerSlam? You don't watch it. I do.
No, I'm gonna watch it.
We got to skip a B level. We got to skip a B level show.
There's stuff on SummerSlam I'm probably gonna like.
Right. We got to skip one of those B shows. And WWE pay-per-views have been mostly good. No more NXT for you. You're done. You're barred from NXT. How about that?
No, I have to watch.
No,
it.
I'm trying to help you here.
I have to do the job.
I can't help you if you don't want the help. All right, you know what I mean? You're crying for help, and then we try to help, and then you push us away. So it's like, what do you want?
I know. I can't just. I have to do the job. What do you want me to do? Like, it's not like it's a fucking. Like, yeah, you can just toss. Like, you don't have to watch like Impact, right? Like, we don't have to do that. I kind of have to watch this, right?
Not NXT. You have to watch the SummerSlam. You do not have to watch the NXT. This is completely unessential stuff that we're watching.
I think it's the worst wrestling to ever exist. Like, not even just for the whole presentation, all of it. The package.
Yeah, it's loud. It's bright. Everyone's screaming. Everyone's yelling. Nothing.
It's never good.
It's not that good. Yeah, the main event was fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like the problem with that main event is if that had like a 7.87 rating, I'd be like, yeah, that's probably what it is. It's like, a decent enough main event, a decent, solid WWE style main event. Ilya did a great job of selling. Carmelo, he's not quite there yet, but Ilya kind of, held it together for the first, 2 3/4, and then the finish was solid as hell. Good old, 4 3/4. low end 4-star match, if you want to say. I wouldn't go 4. I'd go 4 3/4. If it was that, I'd be fine. But the fact that it's in the pantheon of some of the greatest matches of all time on cage matches is tough.
It makes you sick.
It is tough. So yeah, I think you're done with NXT. I'm declaring it. You're done. You can't do it anymore. You can do it in private, but just don't tell me you're watching NXT.
Do it in private
If you must. But don't tell me you're doing NXT.
Well, I haven't watched.
I'm not going to put it on spreadsheet. I'm not going to put it on topics list. Anything. NXT is done for now. No, it's done.
Got to watch it.
You don't.
I haven't watched SmackDown in weeks because I still don't have Fox. Still have the carriage dispute.
No, there might be a trial this week you'll miss, but don't worry.
Which has been nice to not feel like I have to watch SmackDown.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because I don't even have the option. I literally cannot watch it. So, and I got to tell you, it feels good.
I think you got to extend that. Extend it to Raw. Extend it to NXT. Watch the PLEs, and that's it. You got to watch Dynamite. I think the Dynamite 200 is going to help.
Dynamite, I heard, was good.
Very good show. Very good show. I think that'll restore some faith. Go watch some Continental. Watch some Dynamite.
I will do that.
You'll be okay. You'll be okay. We are not, for people that are, we are not doing it. It's Reaction Live for SummerSlam. I'm not going to be around, and I don't want to do that anyway. So that's fine.
A lot of AEW pay-per-views this month.
Absolutely a lot of AEW pay-per-views this month in August. So make sure you subscribe to flagshippatreon.com, patreon.com/voices of wrestling, voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon. There's really only one. There's All In, but that's fine. All Out is in September, but that's okay.
Like, I'm not doing a bit. I'm not doing shtick. When I watch NXT, I question why I watch wrestling at all. It makes me so depressed.
It's a waste of 2.5 hours. Yeah, it's a waste of 2 hours.
No, it makes me feel like I don't understand wrestling anymore. It just fucks with my head. It's
you got to stop. You don't have to watch this.
You don't.
You do not.
I got to sit down and watch this CMLL, right?
Yeah, do that. Watch Dynamite 200. You'll be good. You'll be back. You'll be back at it next week. I'm positive of it.
Because then the problem is some little thing will happen on something else, and then I go on a fucking rampage.
You're gonna get Brock. Brock's gonna throw around Cody. It'll be fine. You'll have a new tribal chief potentially. Okay, that might not help. Anyway, that's it. So just skip NXT, and we will never put it on ever again. This might be the end of NXT on this very show. But that is it for this particular episode of the Flagship Podcast. Again, flagshippatreon.com, patreon.com/voices of wrestling, voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon for all of our bonus audio. Sorry, I just had a cough there. The worst possible time. All in instant reaction coming up later this month. You are getting that. You are also getting bonus audio on the G1, daily G1 audio. Thursday, Dynamite reviews. Every single Thursday, a review of AEW Dynamite. You're getting written content. I wrote about the August 1 warning, the Tino Ortiz return to Impact Wrestling, the August 1 warning, all about that. If you don't remember that, we are in the 10-year anniversary of that, which made me feel very, very old. The 10-year anniversary of August 1 warning, which I'm sure we talked about on this very show and made fun of at length. I also did a written piece about Collision, as I mentioned. A lot of other stuff available there at flagshippatreon.com. Sky's the Limit, my Cruiserweight Classic series, my AWF series, Freedom of Choice, the Paul Alperstein independent promotion from the mid-90s, going through every episode of that. That is also available. And some other stuff that we'll have potentially on the horizon on that Patreon. So make sure you subscribe there, flagshippatreon.com, patreon.com/voices of wrestling, and voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon. Make sure you also go to voicesofwrestling.com for previews, reviews, columns, voicesofwrestling.com/Discord to join our Discord server. And then finally, subscribe to the Voices Wrestling Podcast Network on your podcast app of choice. You can subscribe to the entire network itself or search for every one of the individual shows on the network. They all have their own feeds, and you subscribe there, rate, review, do all that other fun stuff. So that is it for us. Oh, we're on YouTube as well. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Just look up Voices of Wrestling on YouTube. You'll find us there. So that is it for us on the Flagship Podcast. That is Joe. I am Rich. We will talk to you next time. Take care. Bye.
Hi, my name is Tyler Fornes, and I am the co-host of The Good, the Bad, and the Hunky here on the Voice Wrestling Podcasting Network. Every week, my co-host Fred Moreland and I discuss all the happenings of All Elite Wrestling and everything going on in the universe of Tony Khan. We talk about Dynamite, we talk about Rampage, and we will talk about Collision when the time comes as well, along with all the appearances outside of AEW from all the best talents in All Elite Wrestling. This is one of the more cohesive wrestling companies in the entire world, and we discuss every intricacy about it, including the unique booking of Tony Khan that is both a huge positive and a major detriment. Check us out every single Thursday here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
Hello, Voices of Wrestling listener. Dave Ryan here. Have you ever wondered to yourself how many hidden gems are hidden away inside the last years of World Championship Wrestling? Have you ever asked yourself how many tenuous gags can be made about the name Mike Enos? And have you ever thought about what it sounds like for two Irishmen to interpret a very chaotic company through its B show? The answers to all this and more are just a click away. Check out Days of Thunder every second Thursday on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.